jamming to that music.
I know. It's
so good.
It's killer, isn't it? I just found that. That is... oh, hopefully people actually got to hear that, because it looks like we've only been broadcasting for a few seconds. I thought we'd started. Okay, hopefully people got to hear that. We led in with an epic orchestral cover arrangement. That's what they're calling it, from Benny Music. Just a guy with a few thousand subscribers on YouTube, and he's just got this killer like epic cover of the original Batman 66 theme. I just found that, and now I'm like, I want to lead in with that every time. It's really, really good. Yeah,
it has like it kind of has a little bit of that Elfman flavor too, with that kind of like that kind of like chorus thing going on too.
Oh yeah, we started late. People didn't get to hear it. I'm gonna play some of it right now.
It didn't go? Oh.
No, it didn't go. I'm gonna go back and start playing some of it. It's cool. I'll throw a link to you guys in the comments there if you're watching live. Thanks for joining us, by the way. It has been a long, long time. In a bat cave far away. Yeah, isn't that cool? It's really cool. Anyway, so, Danz, you've been busy. We haven't met for, what, 3 months for Batmosphere?
Something like that, yeah. I think we've both been busy because, like, you put it off like once. I probably put it off like maybe 2 or 3 times.
That's true.
We've been trying to get this going.
Supposed to do it.
I'm a married man now too. Hey,
yeah, I was gonna mention that. Yeah, congratulations, man.
Yeah, Liz finally put a ring on it. About damn time. Yeah, no, it's we had been engaged for years, or a couple years, and so we finally found the time to get married during this crazy time we're living in. It was fun.
Yeah, Dan's live streamed his wedding, which I've never heard of anyone doing.
Yeah, I saw a couple people reacting like, that's really weird for you to do that. I'm like, well, one, I stream everything all the time. I like live my life on stream anyway. I've been, living my life on the internet, on YouTube and everything else. So why not do that? One, I can't have my family attend, so I was going to be streaming it either way. Why not just stream it with the community that I've, built over the years? And we're all so close anyway, so why not invite all my friends to the wedding? And I didn't have to feed anybody. I didn't have to, I didn't have to pay for a gigantic venue. I literally just set up a camera in my living room and some lights and...
Oh, wow, you did it at your house?
Yeah. My sister was the officiator. My sister and her husband were our witnesses, and easy peasy.
That's really cool. I mean, obviously, that's a really good alternative right now during the pandemic, and I'm surprised I haven't heard of more people doing that. Yeah,
well, my sister also got married in April, so she streamed it on Facebook. She just streamed it from her phone, so like
and of course, I think a lot of people don't realize that you can do unlisted streams. Like, you could do a stream that was only unlisted, or obviously, you could do something through a different service, but like, Skype or what? Well, probably not Skype. Like, you'd want to pick something where people weren't like, also there and chatting with you necessarily. So I don't know if you'd want to. What's the big one that everybody's been using that I've not used yet?
Zoom.
Yeah, I guess you probably wouldn't want to do it over Zoom.
I had never heard of Zoom until the pandemic, and then and it seems like everybody's forgotten about Skype. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like Skype. A dinosaur still using Skype.
But then Skype is like adopting the thing where you can change the background and everything, and
yeah, it's got more features. There's more stuff you can do with it these days, and it seems more reliable than it used to be. I haven't had the problems with Skype lately that I used to. So that's kind of nice. I guess quick plug for Skype is a thing
Brought
you can still use.
Skype. Yeah. The Batmosphere.
I don't think any company has gotten bigger or made out better because of the pandemic than Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Danz, I'm sorry that I didn't make your wedding virtually. I didn't know about it. I was not paying attention to social media.
I'm sorry, I didn't let you know. Yeah, I wasn't posting anywhere that you would have seen it, so I'm a jerk. Okay. I should have done like a mass text to all my friends, but yeah.
Yeah, because these days you and I just chat on text because you're not on Facebook and I don't use Twitter anymore, so.
Yeah.
Twitter's just gotten so volatile overall. I don't even use it anymore. Like, I just don't go there. It's got such a crazy reputation. I feel like it's almost like TikTok now, where it's like if you even bring it up, you're like, "Ooh, my God, Twitter." Ugh. So I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely find myself hanging around Twitter less and less as time goes on. Yeah. It's just not, I mean, it's not as fun because the world's crazy right now.
What do you find you post on most often these days as far as social media goes? Just Instagram or? Because I
still post on Twitter, but and usually if I'm posting on Instagram, I also post on Twitter. But I actually had a long spout for like a good year or so that I wasn't posting anything on Instagram. But yeah, it's mainly still Twitter. I just, if I'm not streaming, I tend to stream long streams, so I don't know. I don't really hang out on Twitter too much. I follow a lot more artists now on there, I guess. So I'll scroll through, like and retweet art and stuff like that, or something I find cool. But other than that, I don't know. I'm just playing games and streaming and watching stuff or hanging out with my wife. I can say that now.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Well, congrats again, man. Mr. Roboto, $2 super chat. There's always time for Danz Newz. I agree.
In the news, Danz Newz. Not spelled correctly, but that's okay. I still love you, Mr. Roboto.
Hilariously, the last time we did a show was for the DC Fandom event, which feels like a million years ago now, especially after all the crazy announcements from Disney with Star Wars and Marvel.
I'm still trying to watch that whole thing. I'm in the middle. I have a tab pulled up. I'm 2 hours in. They're talking about Pinocchio. I still haven't even gotten to the Marvel part yet.
Well, that's really funny. It didn't even occur to me. Of course there is. It didn't even occur to me there were video announcements for that. I just looked at articles. So yeah,
it was a whole it was like a whole conference. Well, it's like Fandom. They're just green screened into places, and there's I didn't know about that either until I saw somebody who had posted pictures from it. I was like, I'd rather just watch it than read all these things
or at least jump around. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. The thing is, I knew they were broadcasting it, but I think I had like a mental disconnect where it didn't occur to me to actually sit down and watch it because they called it an investor meeting, and that sounds boring. And why would anybody think to sit down and watch an investor meeting?
Yeah, it is strange because it pretty much is like Disney's Fandom event, and yet it was, all marketed around. This is our, well, I mean, because they do their investor calls and all that stuff. It is a pretty much a huge thing of like, this is what we have coming out. Stay invested in what we have coming because we got a million things coming around. Like they have the National Geographic stuff, Pixar, the Star Wars, Marvel. They like every single aspect of.
I don't mean to be horribly negative, but I'm going to say this because I think it's true. Isn't that the most like corporately cynical thing to do? Where it's like we're gonna have an investor. We're not even trying to hide it anymore. We care more about our investors than we do anything else, of course. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a thing to keep them excited to keep giving us money. And then we're going to give that to all the fans and just kind of double dip with it. Because it's basically the same thing. Like, what we really care about is that the investors are interested in all of the, millions of Star Wars and Marvel things that we're putting out. I mean, that makes sense. We don't even try to hide it anymore.
Yeah, it's all getting weird. The lines between everything are getting blurred in general between, brands and fans are making it more part of their identities. Like, I love Batman, but I'm not going to, I just really, I mean, you can see, I think, in my entire room and it's tattooed on my arm, but Batman isn't my identity. Like, I am still a human being. I just really like Batman. I like collecting things. So that's it. But I'm not going to I don't know, man. Like, some people are just crazy. And I think they're falling right into that trap where it's like, falling for these brands and making it so I don't know, just I think we see it around like Star Wars and I mean even Batman currently with the movies and everything, just like this weird shift going on between being a fan and it being a part of your identity. Yeah. And they take such what's the word I'm looking for? Offense to anything.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't like it or it's just it's such a weird thing.
And then companies get kind of entitled because it becomes this idea of, well, if you're a fan of this in some way, we sort of own you, and like you're gonna buy anything we give you, of course. Yeah. And so like don't be critical of anything that we give you and don't consider not buying it. Like any of us that collect things and are fans of things, of course, we are consumers. And like
yeah.
It's America, and very frankly, kind of a lot of the world. I mean, we're all consumers in some way, but we still have the power of choice. We can still, pick and choose things based on whether or not we are, interested and engaged and think they're going to be any good. And we should never forget that companies don't own us, right? Like that seems like such an obvious thing to say, but I think because I say the companies can get entitled about this, but I think they'll kind of use their fans as kind of like you were saying, champions for them, where it's like don't think about anything. You're supposed to be supporting Disney. It's like, nah, if I don't like it, I don't have to, and I should be able to say it's bad. Like, yeah.
Well, yeah, and they're being used. Fans are being used as ammo, in the public, with the whole Sony Spider-Man thing, and there was a case more recently. I can't remember what specifically, but where it's just these companies use their fandoms to throw at other companies to be like, hey, we're gonna make you look bad, and so everybody's gonna complain, and then you're gonna lose customers if you don't listen to us and bend to this. I guess the whole HBO Max thing and that whole dealio. That's a whole thing right now, but yeah.
And it's difficult to do a show about anything in pop culture right now and not talk about how everything is changing, and we have no idea where things are going to be even in a year's time.
Yeah. So weird. What a strange, odd time we live in. I was going through my old favorites on YouTube yesterday, and I came across a Geekvolution video from June 21st, 2012 called "Has Superhero Popularity Hit Its Peak?"
Nope.
In 2012.
2012 era was just getting started.
I know. It's just so funny. But I mean, it's just that just goes to show you don't know
it's all about
what's
perception,
coming around the corner.
Yeah. Hello, cat.
Yeah, Fisher is just really wanting attention right now. Hello.
Every time Fisher shows up, I kind of wish my cat was actually downstairs, and our cats could meet each other virtually, but she's always upstairs.
Oh, that'd be cute. But Fisher doesn't he doesn't really react to screens. He doesn't care what's going on the TV or phones, or my cat Cooper. He'll if there's birds or something on the TV, he'll get really locked in. But Fisher just does not care.
But yeah, super weird uncertain times. So we started on a real kind of negative note, but let's get into Batman things finally. It's a Batman live stream. Welcome again, everybody. I see lots of folks there in the comments. Thanks a bunch for popping in. A couple names that I don't recognize right away. Saber Tech is a name that I don't recognize. Welcome. Thanks for being here. He says that the Robin pick in the corner is the same size as us, so he keeps expecting another person to pop in.
Or it just starts animating "Hi, I'm Robin."
I have opinions about which of me is the best. So we're going to have kind of a regular show again tonight. We're going to talk about... I don't have any Pop Robins, I don't think, because you've seen my collection, Dan. I only buy the Batmans, and there's so many of those. I can't buy too much of anything else. That's awesome.
Yeah, a little Nightwing. Well, I didn't really buy any of these. Fans send them to me, so cool. I have a lot of random ones.
So tonight we're going to talk a little bit later about our definitive Robin. We're also going to review one of the strangest things that Frank Miller ever wrote. We did Frank Miller last time in year one, and now we're going to do what I think is kind of year one's polar opposite. It's going to be very strange jumping over to All-Star Batman and Robin. We're going to talk about something that was never finished and something that is kind of universally panned and infamous. And it's going to be interesting. This is a thing that I have meant to talk about for almost a decade, Dan. Vince and I threatened for a long time to sit down and talk about that, but I couldn't get him to reread it. And so I never did it on my own. So finally we're going to be talking about that tonight.
Who would want to?
Who indeed, yeah. So we're going to talk about that. I think it's also really interesting looking at that book again in hindsight after DCEU. And I had a kind of a different experience with it after seeing some things that remind me of it, but I wasn't thinking of this when I saw them. The BVS of that book is really interesting.
Yes.
So we'll talk about all of that. Right now, let's talk Bat Life a little bit, and we'll just break down anything and everything that Danz and I have been doing Batman-related in our personal lives lately. We haven't met in 3 months, so we may have some things. Danz, any cool Batman stuff going on for you lately?
Nothing crazy. I mean, after the Fandom, I picked up this shirt. I don't think I had it. Well, obviously the Fandom just happened last time when we did that show. So I picked up the Batman shirt.
That's an awesome shirt.
Speaking of consumerism, yeah, it was available like for the Fandom event. So and I really like the Batman logo. And I just don't have enough. I hadn't gotten a new Batman shirt in a while, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get that. Why not? It was like $20, so why not? And it's really good. Liz hadn't really seen too much of. Well, I don't even know if. Hi Fish, he's chiming in. He has a Bat segment as well. I don't know if we were doing this.
Fan, really?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I can't say that joke that I had in my head. But I don't know if last time Liz and I were going through the Batman movies or not, but Liz had never really seen the Batman movies before. Like, not all of them. She's seen the newer ones. But I was like, ooh, let's watch all of the Batman movies. And so we started with Batman 66 and had gone through the Burton movies, the Schumacher movies, and then we also watched Mask of the Phantasm. I forgot to put that in because I was going to go in order, but I forgot about Mask of the Phantasm being like in between those. So we went through them all and then watched that.
Yeah, if you're going to do that in chronological order of production, you have to put that right after Batman Returns.
Yeah, and I completely forgot about it. And I also didn't really think about it, but then I was like, oh yeah, we should watch that too. So we watched Phantasm. And we're doing podcasts on them. We did one podcast on all of those movies.
Oh, cool.
And then we just started the Nolan trilogy. So we watched Batman Begins and Dark Knight, but we kind of fell off on that train. We need to get back onto it about a little over a month ago. So but also we started watching the animated series, which she had also never seen. So which is kind of weird. We watched Mask of the Phantasm, but I mean that's kind of a prequel in a way. So that also works because it hops around. But yeah, so we just started. We've seen the first like 4 or 5 episodes of the animated series as well. So it's been nice going through that because the entire reason that sparked us like watching Batman stuff, she was like, what's the origin of Man-Bat? And I was just like, oh, well, that's the first episode of the animated series. And after we watched it, she was like, that didn't really explain much. So, yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot to that origin, really. It's kind of the Kurt Connors thing, really. Like,
yeah, it straight up is. And that episode's pretty hilarious, too, where it's just like the guy who's all shifty. It's like, oh, it's clearly him. But then it's,
that is all about the atmosphere.
Yeah, the Batmosphere. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, so I mean, just watching a lot of Batman movies and the animated show with somebody who's never seen it before.
Yeah, that's. I find that with stuff I've seen a million times is a lot more fun to bring in somebody that's never seen it before and get their initial reaction because you have different perspectives on things. And sometimes people will bring up something you've never thought of before, which is simultaneously like really really fun and also kind of daunting sometimes because somebody will mention a thing and then you'll look like an idiot because you never thought of it and you've been into this thing for like 20 years and you're like, how did I never think of that? Like, of course that, yeah. And I had that with Star Trek sometimes. Like when I started taking Eric finally through some Star Trek, he would mention some things and I'd be like, I never thought of that. And he's like, you ran a club for 15 years. How did you not? But that could be a really satisfying experience too.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, anytime you can be given a different perspective on something, I think it's definitely worth.
Oh, you've apparently been echoing this whole time because
my God.
I had you doubled up on 2 sliders and didn't realize it. So yeah, if anybody ever hears anything weird happening with the audio or sees anything weird with the video, just let us know and I'll fix it if it. Because I haven't been in this tab in a long time, and I didn't realize I had that slider on. I've got too many sliders.
Difficulties. Well, now I sound great. Hello, chat. How are you all doing?
Hello. Yeah, you're not echoing at all anymore.
Woo!
So that's good. I love that mug, man.
Oh, thank you.
That thing is enormous.
It's gigantic. Liz got this. This was like she got this and a Darth Vader mug when we first moved in together, and I've had it ever since. And it's my favorite mug. I absolutely love it. It dribbles a little bit when you drink out of it, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, those round ones are kind of strange, but yeah, it's cool looking.
And it's real rounded edge too.
I wish I had it on my desk right now. I'm not drinking anything that requires a mug at the moment, but the mug I always use is a 89 Batman mug. Well, actually, it's a mug from 1989, but it's comic book Batman. It looks like Neil Adams art or something close to Neil Adams art, and I've had it since I was a kid, like since it came out. I've been using that same mug for years and years, and it still looks as good as it ever did. It doesn't have any chips on it. It hasn't lost any paint, and it goes in the dishwasher. Like, we just made things better back then, I think. I don't know.
Well, you got to break out those. You have those. What is it, the Burger King cups or the McDonald's cups? You still have those
glasses. Yeah.
You should use those.
I should bring those out on a show at some point.
Just casually starts drinking out of the Riddler cup.
The Riddler. And you'll be able to tell exactly what I'm drinking too, because they're transparent.
Yeah.
You and I are transparent in all things. It's hard not to kind of let everybody know about your whole life when you're on camera a lot.
Transparent aluminum. Not now, Madeline.
So I'm not even going to explain to anybody what that's from if you don't know. So Dan, I have been doing similar things. Not watching as much Batman stuff as you, because I've been going through some other things with my son Jason. But he and I have been showing his brother Freddie the Nolan trilogy, and we just finished Dark Knight, so we're going to do Rises next week. And Jason and I are probably going to do a father and son podcast on the trilogy together. We did that with Back to the Future, where we just talked about the whole thing, and that worked out really well. So we're going to do that with those, and obviously that'll be the 6,000th time I've said my piece on those movies, so I'm going to let Jason do a lot of the talking if he's got stuff to say.
How old's Freddie now?
Freddie is 6.
Man, he's watching The Dark Knight already?
He is.
Score.
And he
that's
loves
awesome.
It.
That's crazy. Man, that's insane. I remember when Jason was born. We're old men, Cap.
I know, we're getting up there. Well, and Freddie is, quite a bit more, grown up and sophisticated than even when you saw him, because he would have been 4 when you were here.
Yeah. Oh gosh, time is so weird. I feel like I was just there. Oh, well, I guess you're in a different house now too. Yeah. So.
And yet, doesn't it feel a million years ago? Because 2020 feels like 5 years. We're all packed into it.
Too much news, too much everything. It's just sensory overload.
Yeah, it makes me want to look into like quantum mechanics and quantum physics more than I ever have before, to try to explain how time really works and like human perception of it. Because at exactly the same time, I have felt like this whole year has gone by in the blink of an eye. And at the same time, it also feels like I'm 10 years older than I was. Like, and some of that is personal stuff. Some of that is a lot of like just life things for me that have happened this year. Like I've had I had surgery for kidney cancer, and that feels like a million years ago. Like, I keep having to remind myself I even had that, because I didn't have to go through chemo or anything, and I didn't lose any part of my kidney or anything. So it's like it never happened. And I keep describing it, Dan, like, because I don't think you and I have talked about this. I keep describing it like you get to a cliffhanger for a season of television and something like really dire and horrible seems to be happening, and then we resolve it at the end of the cliffhanger, and then it never comes up again, and you like totally forget that this like horrible death-defying thing. Yeah, back to the status quo. That's exactly what this feels like. I count myself lucky because of that. But yeah, I mean, that was back in April, and that feels like a million years ago now. So some of it's life stuff, but a lot of it is also just I don't leave my house all that much anymore. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing is, like, I just remember reading a million years ago about, like, the perception of time, and, like, when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, it can go, perceptively it goes by faster, but if you are taking in a lot of new information and new experiences, it tends to slow things down. So I think that's why we're all, like, for this year particularly, kind of feeling this sense that it feels like many years packed into one.
Well, sorry about all the non-Batman talk, folks. This is Dan and I haven't gotten to talk in a while.
It's impossible not to do. I think that's part of the Batmosphere, though. Is Batmosphere's, it's life. It's not just Batman. It is all-encompassing.
And it's as much about having the feeling that you're talking about Batman as it is that you're actually talking about. That's why it's the Batmosphere. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't matter what the actual topic is. Batman is never far from our minds. Partly because we have Batman iconography everywhere. Well, we can't be talking about crappy hamburgers all the time, so.
That's a reference to, I think, the first episode of Batmosphere.
Yes, I forgot all about that. But occasionally you do have to talk about crappy hamburgers.
Yes.
I can't remember why we were talking about crappy hamburgers.
I can't remember either. But I still.
Was it a metaphor? Or was it?
I think so.
Yeah, it was an allegory to something.
Yeah. And none of us are going to go back to that first episode and find out, so.
But yeah, surprisingly, I don't have a whole ton of other Batman things to report myself, because I've been working on so much channel stuff. So a lot of my Batman has been working through Nightfall and doing Capfall and getting those made. And I haven't made one of those in, shot anything in a couple of weeks. I've got quite a lot of backlog, but I need to sit down and work on some more of that. I've been getting the Rewind podcast archive up and all of that, and so I've just been really busy with kind of behind the scenes stuff. And also, I've gotten addicted to streaming this last week since I got a capture card. So whenever
it's fun, man. It's fun to just play games and hang out with people and chat and like.
Yeah, like that's what I've been doing for relaxation. So it looks like that's all I'm making, or like I'm doing that instead of things I should be doing. But really, it's just I'm taking a break from making videos by making videos. And I haven't done any Batman stuff in that yet, but I want to get to making doing a lot of streams on superhero games. I'd like to make Superhero Replay like a live stream experience, and I just haven't gotten to that yet because I've been wanting to play other stuff, and that actually sounds like work because, I mean, it sounds fun, but some of those games are going to be obviously really terrible and not things I really want to play, and I don't know. Dan, maybe you won't have an opinion on this. What is your opinion on how someone ought to do a thing like that? Like, if it's not things I'm really familiar with, do you think I should just jump in and see if I can even play the thing, or should I like work at it first and then stream?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on how you plan on it. If you just want it to be like your genuine reaction to a thing and just like the off the cuff aspect of that, or if you want to kind of break it down a little bit more. But I mean, it depends on what sort of substance there is to offer for those games in the first place. Like, I don't know.
Because I'm probably going to start with a lot of retro stuff. It's going to be a lot of 8 and 16-bit. And so much of that is just like repetition, like learning a level. And so, should I like come in and try to look impressive and go through a whole game? Or should I go, how far in this can I get in an hour? Okay, it's damn hard. I guess one stage is all you're getting. Like,
oh, okay. So I see that. Yeah, you don't want to get hung up on something. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, for me, it's always off the cuff, like, generally. I once wanted to do a Star Trek, like the Star Trek, the 25th anniversary game that I have on Steam, but I was like, I just started up the stream, and then I was like, oh, I can't even capture this. Like, it changes my screen resolution. I can't even capture this for a stream. So I guess we're not playing that. Whoops.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe do that and make sure you can capture it, which, I mean, if you're playing on console, you definitely could. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and for older stuff, I've got a good, emulator, and so I can work straight off the machine.
You guys have
I'm
like
an idiot, by the way.
Under the sun when I was there.
I think this last week has been like a month packed into a week because no, I'm wrong. Chewbacca's Lover is right. I have been streaming Batman stuff. I finished the second Telltale game this week.
Oh yeah, I saw the
I'm an idiot. I
forgot
about that.
Check it out.
In fact, I was playing it almost every day. I did half of that game in 1 week. Got it knocked out.
I love that game.
It's really
I'm glad
good.
they're going to make another season.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was confirmed for sure, or if we were just assuming that because they got bought out.
Well, they had said that they were planning on doing The Wolf Among Us season 2, continuing Batman properties and that, and they were saying we're not going to be like pursuing other licenses just yet. We want to kind of just.
They probably want to see if those will even sell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly they needed to change their model anyway in some way, because that's one of the reasons why Telltale folded, was because they just weren't selling enough copies. A lot of people were playing them. Like, I feel like a lot of people are streaming them and recording them, but I think those are the kind of games where a lot of people are more interested in the story, and so they just would look up a playthrough on YouTube or on Twitch and not necessarily buy the games themselves for as much as they were popular amongst content creators. And I think I don't know, I'm always a target for Batman, so if a Batman game comes out, I'm gonna definitely check it out.
Yeah, I don't think it helped that they had it on PS Now. Like a lot of those games, if you had a subscription to that, you could just stream that way if you're already paying for that.
Giving them out.
I'm not saying that's what killed the company, of course, but that's one of the little things that might have hurt them a little bit. And I also
they overstretched themselves.
And I also think they were making too much stuff. I'm also not convinced that the season model is ever a good idea for anything. I just don't know, but I wonder if they'll get away from that and if they'll just give you a package and have it all done in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Because, well, I think one of the reasons why they did the season model so much was because they were working on multiple things. I wish they kind of had just put focus on one game at a time as opposed to splitting up your team across multiple properties.
Well, I like that idea because you're basically like playing through a TV show, which is why it was an easy thing to just go look up, especially because you have these like meticulous game streamers and reviewers who will go in and archive these things, and so they'll make videos where they'll show you every permutation you can take. So you don't have to just watch like somebody's path and see where they went. You can see every possibility. And you more than any other kind of game, I think you kind of have the experience of playing it without playing it. But
because there isn't too much gameplay outside of that choice.
There's really not, and you've got the quick time events, but you don't really feel like oh man, if I don't actually play those, I didn't actually play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, exactly. I see what you do now. You just have to know where X and square is. Whenever I get into those action scenes, I'm like, Catwoman, square him! Square him in the head!
Left stick, right stick.
I'm always confused as to which stick you're supposed to use, so I just press them both.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Because you don't play, because there isn't enough gameplay to really kind of make you even in tune with the sticks when you're playing, because you're not really, unless you're walking around a little bit, but it's like, what stick am I hitting? Like, it's never explained. But I think it's mainly left stick. I don't know.
But yeah, so I guess I'm back and forth in the episode thing. I'm just saying that might have been part of what hurt them financially. I guess I'm not sure. Because a lot of things have gotten away from that whole episode model. But then how do you have any kind of DLC for a thing like that? And these days, so many games are relying on longevity. Sticking around and having it so that you can keep buying things for it. So I don't know. Like, the nice thing about the episode thing is you feel like you're watching a TV show, in playing through it. You like when you get a big. I don't know. I don't want to binge those. I like having to wait. I really do. I like you get this massive cliffhanger. You're like, oh man, how long do I have to wait until like it's exciting.
Yeah. And you could kind of tell how much of the next episode they had done by the preview of the next episode, because
that's true.
They're still working on it, but some of them it will just have some dialogue and like just one shot of something.
I never thought of that.
But some will be a little bit more elaborate. Usually earlier on, there will be more of a preview, and towards the end, like maybe the 4th episode before the last one or the 5th episode before the last one, there will just be barely anything.
See, now I wonder if I should be playing like constant Batman music underneath this show, so that even if we're not talking that much about Batman, it's even more you're even more wrapped up in going on.
Well, don't do that, because your microphone's still doing that thing where if you have sound playing, I can't hear you for some reason. It was doing that at the start.
Everyone says that, and I don't know what causes that. It's very strange.
Yeah, you had it fixed at one point. I have no idea what it was though. Like it did stop working at some point.
Since I don't know what caused it, I can't tell you how I fixed it.
Yeah, doesn't matter. It's fine. I could context clues. Just read your lips.
Real quick, he's a veteran. He's used to this. Real quick before we move on, I want to know if you feel the same way that I do after playing through Telltale Batman 2 Enemy Within a second time, because I intentionally, part of the reason I streamed that, somebody asked me, this is Malik Myers, he asked me quite a while back to do a playthrough, or I originally wanted me to review it, but I decided to do it as a playthrough, and he was like, I want to know what you think about the other Joker path. because it's significantly different in the last chapter, depending on whether or not you, spoiler alert, but depending on whether or not you tell John that you agree with him or don't agree with him. So if you tell him that you do agree with him, then he tries to become Batman, and he doesn't understand how to be Batman, so he becomes like this scary Joker vigilante. And if you go the other way, he's something akin to the traditional sadistic Joker, but his motivations are very different, so it's really fascinating. But you get to see him turn into more or less classic Joker. I found myself, when I was playing it the first time, I was not expecting like Joker with a utility belt, and it seemed like a twisted 66 Batman episode. I was really excited about it, and I really enjoyed that. The twisted sadistic like classic Joker ending is better.
Oh yeah,
I think by far.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I didn't do that one. So.
Oh, you haven't even seen it? Okay.
No.
I was just wondering which you preferred, but you've only done it the one way.
Yeah. Which I still loved seeing Joker become like a Batman-esque vigilante, which was really like that, and then working together. Like it's just I really liked that, but yeah, I'm curious to see how the story would go otherwise.
The story is more interesting the other way, and it ends up being more personal and kind of hitting closer to home. And I have a more interesting read on that Bruce Wayne, seeing him go that way, seeing him turn. From the beginning, because obviously the Joker always will turn into, you know, Batman hating or you know, Batman loving as an antagonist, depending on how you want to look at it. Joker, that does end up happening in that other ending also, but they do this crazy thing where he makes like makeshift graves for everybody that's died, all the major people that have died in the game, and one of the choices you have to make is you have to go to each grave and determine who you think Joker is trying to get you to say killed those people. It's really interesting. So it's like, who killed Martha Wayne? Thomas Wayne? Bruce Wayne? Joe Chill? Like, it's really interesting.
Huh. Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. See, and that's the kind of stuff that does make those games worth replaying. I usually do I do 2 different playthroughs typically, and I haven't gone that far into Batman because I only did I think the first few episodes of the first season. But like I usually do my playthrough where it's just like, you know, I'm a nice guy, so I usually try to be as much of a nice guy as possible. But then I'll go through and just do a complete you know, jerkbag kind of like playthrough where I'm just a jerk the entire time, and I make every single mean decision for everybody. Like I was doing that first season where I didn't even talk to Harvey Dent at all. I always chose the silent option. Like even when he would cue you up to say like, oh hey Bruce, when you're at the fundraiser for him and stuff like that,
just ignore him the whole time.
Yeah, you're talking to the people, and I'm just quiet the entire time. And then when he's like, oh, like, what do you think about my slogan? And then I just say nothing. He's like, yeah, well, I guess this is okay. Like, and so I just never said anything the entire time.
It's weird how they gave you the option to be silent with him every time. There's less of those silent options in the second game.
Oh, really? Well, usually, yeah, it's they always make a point to say, like, silence is an option or whatever. Like, silence is a...
Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I thought that this last playthrough I didn't see that as an option as often. But maybe I just decided never to take it, and I was just looking at the 3. I don't know. Maybe that's what I did.
Yeah,
I thought
it's
it
always
didn't
at the
give you as
top. I
much.
think it's always Y
Is it
or
always
whatever,
at the top? Okay.
or triangle if you're playing on PlayStation.
What drives me crazy is like the way I interpret a line versus the way the game decides to interpret a line, because it's almost never exactly the line it gives you. He'll read it differently. He'll be like, well, that's not what I thought he was going to say. And he'll say something that's like significantly different from what I thought I was picking. And then sometimes it's almost like the game is like cheating you to take you down a darker path or something, because it's like, wait a minute, that's not what I thought I was saying.
Yeah, Season 2 did that a lot. Where it was like, when I was talking to like Selena or something like that, and I was like, no, I didn't mean to say that to her. Like, like I didn't think that's what that was. Yeah, no, that was definitely one of my criticisms.
So I started in my stream yelling at Bruce Wayne, going, just read your line, quit ad-libbing. You know, read the freaking script.
It's pretty good.
So anyway, well, guys, let's go ahead and go on to Batman News, and there's not a ton of stuff to talk about because everything lately is Disney and Star Wars, but I wanted to do what I did, and Dan, I don't know if you brought anything with you, news-wise.
The Batman got delayed. That's about it.
It did. How far did it get delayed?
I think 2022 now, right?
Oh, wow, really?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, and there's been a lot of rumors about turmoil behind the scenes there, and that Pattinson and that director might not be getting along, Reeves, and I don't know how much stock to take in all of that. I don't want to be a rumor podcast,
I haven't heard any of that.
I don't know.
March 4th, 2022.
But that's got to be a hard movie to make in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, everything's hard to make in the middle of a pandemic, but it keeps getting shut down. Where like they've had at least one case where somebody got COVID and they had to shut the thing down. I think Pattinson himself got it.
That was I don't think they ever confirmed it, but that was the rumor. Yeah.
Oh, was that just a rumor?
That's what I heard. I
say
heard
this
it was
all the
him.
time. I'm really sick of not knowing anything. Of not having confirmation. Like it really sucks. You end up being part of the rumor mill and not meaning to be, or being influenced by it and taking it, like you take everything with a grain of salt, but you don't know. So it's like, am I even? I mean, I'm not a journalist, I'm not reporting, but it's like, am I even talking about anything that's really real and actually happening? Like that whole thing drives me crazy.
Well, that's why I don't like. Well, not that I don't like. I have my trusted news sources that I go to. Obviously, anything with a grain of salt, but like usually, if it's from We Got This Covered, I don't take any stock in it. There's some sites that I just go like, all they do is ever publish rumors, and not to say that they aren't right sometimes, but like generally, it's I don't know.
It's all a game to get there the fastest, and even. Sources that you trust just won't always have all the information. So they'll say one thing, and you'll even get, because like it's not always even anybody doing anything wrong. Very often it's just, this is what it seems like is happening. Okay, so should I? Yeah. Being on a channel where we talk about news some, it's like, should I even comment on things that are maybe true but also fall right now in the rumor category? Because by the time they'll get confirmed, it's old news.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of drives me crazy. You just never know what to think.
We've talked about this before on the show, but like Warner Brothers seems to be just like, they let everything get announced via leak or rumor. Like they never officially announce anything ever, typically. So.
I mean, at least they did this time with this giant slate of stuff. But
for sure, yeah.
I guess they're either all of one or all of another thing. Because this time I was like, okay, could we stop the floodgates? Spread it out a little bit. So I'm gonna
all at once, Cap. All at once.
Fantastic. I want to do. Oh, my week last week was nuts because while we were doing the Captain Logan show on Thursday, so Tuesday, we're like, wow, news is getting crazy. We got to talk about all this like Spider-Man 3 stuff. And then we get to Thursday, and there's new Spider-Man 3 stuff. So that's what I made the thumbnail for, where it's like, okay, now we know, like, we had Alfred Molina on Tuesday, and then by Thursday, we had this rumor about Daredevil, and I don't know if that's a rumor or if it's real, and all these other things, and, Kirsten Dunst, and on and on and on. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing, a part 2 of this. And then while we're doing that show, we're getting, and like the Star Wars stuff started dropping like a couple hours before that. So we had to talk about all of that. And then, all the new shows that were announced. And then during that show, all the trailers for the Marvel stuff dropped, like while I'm live streaming. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I can't talk about any of this right now because I don't have time to look at it. So I had to do an extra show on Friday to talk about all the Marvel announcements. It was just insane.
Yeah, and this isn't quite full year world, but then the Game Awards was also happening that night as well.
Somebody
so like
mentioned that during the show where they're like, Tom or somebody was like, so Cap, you're not watching the Game Awards? I'm like, no, I didn't cancel the Captain Logan show to watch the Game Awards.
And then they announced, like 20 new games, and there's a million other trailers coming out about games, and so it's just insane.
Does it feel like everybody's playing catch up? Like, is it this much news about new things right now because 2020 was, for lack of a better way of putting it, canceled? Is that
I think
what
a lot of this stuff that they are talking about, like especially with the Disney Plus and like a lot of the stuff Disney was like, I feel like a lot of that would have been out earlier, way earlier, had it would have been out this year otherwise. So I think it is that to a certain degree. It's like, hey, we're there's a vaccine announced. Let's start getting the consumers excited for things again.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, we're in kind of like lost leader mode earlier in the year, trying to figure out what we're going to do with all of the projects that we've made that we can't sell the way we thought we were going to originally. And so, I think it's a lot of these companies finally, studios and stuff, deciding what they're going to finally do with those things and then trying to prepare for the future, hoping they can finally turn a profit again.
Yeah.
So in one way, it's like, well, yes, of course they're announcing all this stuff. It's just, on a selfish note, it's a lot to cover and to digest and to deal with, and yeah. I'm overwhelmed about next year. Like I'm a little freaked out by it, because I got kind of used to just talking about, you know, older stuff and not having to worry about the news of the day and like reviewing something brand new, and, you know, the pressure of that. And like I said this the other day, it's like, oh yeah, cry me a river, Cap, like you review things for a living. No, it's cool and I love my job, but it's like 2020's been kind of a nice breather, and I don't know if I'm ready to get back into, you know, the gauntlet.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
1,000 things at you every day.
I think a lot of workaholics kind of got hit with a dose of like, oh, wait, I can just slow down for a little bit and actually not, you know, just grind myself to death. So, you know, this year was, I think, a forced little vacation, for lack of a better term. Not a vacation, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not been a good year, not for good reasons, but like it's been a chance for people to kind of stop, reassess, catch your breath, and, you know, move forward.
People in the comments are talking about some of this, and I would love to just keep chatting about this, but we're just in our second segment. We got to bring it back to Batman, so I'm going to continue us.
We got to talk about Batman, guys. Hold on one second.
I'm going to do what I did last year at Christmas and go through BatmanNews.com's holiday gift guide for 2020. Let's see
I did like this last year.
Let's see what cool Batman things we could buy this year, Dan. Single issue comics. Did you know that you can buy comic books about Batman in singles?
They still make those?
They sure do, at least for the time being. $3.99 and up, and up is the operative phrase there. We are pushing things closer and closer to $5 all the time. It's one of the many things that has gotten me less interested in modern comics, and I'm very out of the loop right now. I'm not keeping up with very much with the big two at the moment, and that price point has something to do with that. In this picture, you've got Batman The Adventures Continue there in the corner. That is a digital first thing, and then they put it out in singles later, just like they were years ago with a lot of digital first. We don't have a lot of things like that anymore. I wish we'd get away from that model, or if it has to be digital first, just make it a monthly and put it all up at once. I don't want to read 8-10 pages of a comic book, and that's, you know, of an issue that's not done yet. And so I read the first digital issue and was like, this is good, but I'm gonna wait. And so I bought the first few. I think I don't know how many issues it's into now. It might be a whole year's worth now. It might be like 10 or 12. So I'll start reviewing that hopefully soon. I need to remember to do that. But I haven't been keeping up with a lot else. So I haven't read the end of Tom King. I haven't read any of the Tomasi stuff. Or I think Tomasi and Tinian are both doing things. I forget. But anyway, and then let's see. We have Imagine X DC Super Friends Slammers for $7.88, because that doesn't sound overpriced at all. Yeah, so I mean, you know, if you got kids that like the Imagine X stuff, I guess the blank bag stuff is fun enough. I didn't know about this. Baltazar and Franco have yet another new all-ages book called Arkham Maniacs. I'll have to make sure and get my hands on that. I love those guys. I was a big fan of Tiny Titans years ago, and it's cool that those guys are still together doing their thing, doing that stuff. Nice. Here's the Scrooge Batman plush by Funko Pop.
I want that.
I kind of want that, but I also hope they put it in regular pop form for my collection. This is great. I didn't know about this. The Batman Original Television Soundtrack album. I have the score for the movie, which was put on disc a few years ago. But I had no idea they were doing that, and that's awesome. So I'll try to get my hands on that. I haven't looked at any of the rest of this article, so let's. I'm going to be as surprised as you guys.
Fun stuff.
Here's the Our Name is Mud Batman sculpted coffee mug. That looks like it's for Danz Newz.
That looks really cool. I used to have a mug that had a face like that on it. It didn't have the ears. The mug wasn't like the cowl itself, though. That's really neat.
I was gonna say, do you want to drink something with ears coming out of the side of it?
I don't usually drink like here, so I guess it's fine. Like, it's in a good spot. I wouldn't poke myself, I don't think.
Yeah, if it's wide enough, it looks like it probably is. I like how they framed that, where they're trying to make it look like Christmas. Batman coloring books. That Batman Hush one has been out for a few years, but that Court of Owls one might be new. I didn't know about that. And that Batgirl one I've never seen either. So that's neat. DC Comics Miss Mindy vinyl figurines. That was the thing that we saw at the top. McFarlane DC Universe action figures. I have the the Raptor Batmobile that they put out for McFarlane Toys, because it's cool looking and it wasn't super expensive. It was like a $20 Batmobile that fits a lot of like 6-inch figures, but I haven't seen any of the actual figures.
Those look pretty cool. I like the Arkham one there.
Arkham one right in the middle, yeah. And is that a full black Asbat suit? That is what that is. Look at that.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Well, it's got that stupid belt thing, and it definitely has his helmet. Yeah, that's definitely an Asbat suit.
Leg belt.
Yeah. Salt and pepper shakers.
Which one do you put? I mean, I guess Batman's pretty salty, so we'll put salt in Batman and pepper and Joker.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think you'd go the other way, but what do I know? Oh, they keep going. You've got a Batman and Catwoman one, and a Joker and Harley one. I like how old-fashioned they look.
Yeah.
That's really cool. They're like, are they porcelain? They look like gold, like porcelain, like salt and pepper shakers. Definitely in the family movie. I don't recommend this. To be honest with you, I watched part of it. I've not finished it. I was not impressed. I was gonna review that, and I just haven't gotten back around to it. It's a choose your own adventure thing. It's only like half an hour long. I should just finish it, but I didn't. So the idea of it is kind of cool. It's like we go back to the thing in the 80s with Jason Todd where we let the audience decide if he's going to live or die, right? But we also made it a tie-in and like a prequel/sequel thing to Under the Red Hood. So we're just cashing out on the popularity of Under the Red Hood. And in so doing, they made it like partially, and I don't know how much of it is this, but it felt like half a clip show. Like... A lot of what I was watching was just footage from that first movie, and I was like, really? Like, we're doing this?
Oh, really? From Under the Red Hood?
Yeah. It's got a bunch of Under the Red Hood in it.
Did they bring Bruce Greenwood back for Batman and everything?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, hey, cool. Well, I like that, but
so that's cool. But yeah, it was what I saw of it was disappointing. I had to stop for some reason. I was in the middle of I don't remember what I was doing. I got called away for something and I never got back to it. But I was not enticed. So just with the few minutes of that I saw, I don't recommend that. But I have not finished it, so take that with a grain. Of salt. Batman Crack the Case. What is this? This is like a kid book. It's an interactive puzzle thing. I'm not sure what exactly that is. Batman face masks. Look at this girl with her Batman face masks.
I'm surprised I haven't. Those look big.
They look huge.
I'm surprised I haven't gotten a Batman face mask.
Yeah, I don't have one either. I've been wearing a Venom one.
Ooh, I don't have anything. It's just a Hanes black face mask.
Oh, you don't have a picture one at all?
No.
Sounds very unlike you.
Too lazy.
Spin Master Launch and Defend Batmobile, $37.
I like the set dressing of the animated series and the I have those.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they worked too hard on the backgrounds of these of these little advertisements. I'm not impressed with that Batmobile. I don't know what that's supposed to be from, but the front of that is weird.
It's very chonky looking.
Yeah. Multiverse action figure 2-packs. That's an Arkham Asylum one. Looks fine.
Yeah.
Play set for the Batcave. I didn't know about this board game. And there's a animated series board game that came out I think last year that I haven't tried yet. But that's interesting. Batman Who Laughs is so popular. He's got his own freaking $50 board game now. That's how popular he is.
I haven't been keeping up. I like the imagery, but I haven't been keeping up.
Yeah, but I mean, I've fallen into it a little bit too. I bought a Batman Who Laughs on canvas. It's on my wall of Batman art over here.
The imagery is really cool. So I mean, I don't blame you at all.
And I did a little mini review of his miniseries that Snyder wrote on one of these shows, and I was really happy with that. So
yeah.
And then there's some graphic novels for kids. I never hear good things about those things. Oh, man. That's one of my favorite covers. I can't believe they made that a poster. That's really cool. I kind of want that. I don't think I $50 want that, but I kind of want that. I own that issue.
Nice.
That is one of my favorites. Batman Animated Series by Phantom City Creative. What is this? It's a collection. It's just a poster. Okay, that's cool.
It's just a poster? For $50?
Well, I mean, that was poster for $50.
Yeah, I get. Well, I guess well, it makes more sense when like it's like
a
commission
poster
or not.
Book me? I don't know. Weird.
I don't know.
Oh, this is a coffee table book.
That's what I thought. That it would have had to have been like because it has by Paul Dini or something by Paul Dini.
Yeah, I was confused about that at first. It was talking about a poster from that guy. Anyway, more McFarlane figures. I don't know how McFarlane finally got a DC license to do Batman stuff. That's Batman cool. Batman cookie jar. Cookies.
I have a Batman.
Cookies and girl eating cookies not included.
Yeah.
And then, is this a figure or is this a statue? Oh, that's a resin statue. So that is probably like, oh, that's an $80 statue, yeah.
Yeah, I prefer statues over figures.
I'm getting there, but I'm really liking the plastic stuff that DC. It's not DC Direct. What is it? The company that makes those.
DC Direct, didn't they go defunct at this point?
They did, yeah. But there's a company that's been making these plastic ones that I've been buying. It's like $50. Have you seen the Bane that I bought?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna get him real quick. He's right over here.
Here, you grab yours, I'll grab mine.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm pretty sure this is DC Direct. Look at my little Bane. Oh yes, I'm Bane. Oh.
Oh wow, well yours is way more impressive than mine. Wow, that's amazing.
I think this was DC Direct. I'm pretty sure, from back in the day. Oh yes, I'm Bane.
Now, is that a plastic statue or?
Oh, I don't think
so.
It's heavy. I'm pretty sure it's resin.
See, they've been putting out these plastic things that are a lot cheaper, but they look about as impressive as the resin things, and they don't break. So it's like you can't go wrong. Here's the Bane I just bought.
Oh wow! Oh, that's cool.
And he's just lovely, and like I couldn't help it, especially since I'm in the middle of making Catfall. And this came out right as I started making that show, and I was like, oh, I gotta have that. And I've shown that off in some other shows, but yeah, this thing just keeps going. Batman in black and white. Frank Miller. Oh, you can't buy Frank Miller. Armored Batman by Frank Miller. Wow, he's still not looking like he's in the best of health. The Batcave by Department 56. That's interesting.
That looks really great. I like that. I like the light.
It needs to have a sign that says Gotham City 13 miles.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool.
Mr. Freeze 1/6 scale. That's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
This just never ends. Oh, I like that Catwoman a lot. I'm one of the few people that actually really likes that Catwoman suit, and I don't care what anybody says.
Oh, yeah, from the animated series? Looks great.
I like her without the mask, man. Like, if I bought that, I don't think I'd put the mask on her. I think it's really cool that she's demasked like that.
What have you heard that people don't like that suit?
I love that. It's too generic. It's too simple. And when people don't like the gray, they want her to be in black or purple. I like the gray.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I like the gray as well.
Dark Knight Memorial statue.
Oh, from the Dark Knight Rises. Hey, that's pretty cool, actually.
That is cool. I mean, I think that statue's a little silly, but it's cool they made that.
Yeah, it looks kind of weird in the movie.
Wayne Manor by Department 56. These things are insanely expensive, but they're cool looking. Why is that $240? It's hand painted. Okay, well then, I paint now. Just give it to me unpainted, and I'll paint it. Like,
yeah. It's like my Bane mask. My Bane mask came unpainted, and I just painted it myself.
Things like that I could paint. It'd be great. Ooh, that's cool.
$4,000.
Yeah, it's a $4,000 print. Wow, but it's Newmar. Look at that.
Yeah,
that's cool. It's got a sparkling effect. Okay, anyway, enough about that.
Finally reached the end.
The other thing I wanted to mention is the new creative team on Detective Comics, which is interesting because Dan Mora is finally going to be drawing Batman, and that's a thing that I've been thinking was going to happen eventually, and everybody strap in, because Mora is going to become the next big powerhouse, I think. I think he's going to be a legend. He drew Klaus for Morrison, and kind of got on the map that way, and then he's been doing Power Rangers for Boom for the last several years, and his Power Ranger stuff is amazing, and it was weird seeing him go over to Power Rangers, because it was like, I thought he'd get something huge after Klaus, like Batman, and he goes over to Power Rangers, and like, I'm a big Power Rangers fan. I buy that book. It was really cool to see him on Go-Go, and his stuff is just spectacular. But he's wanted Batman for forever, and it's really cool that he's finally going to get that. And but yeah, nice. I think that's going to be a big deal, and I think it's going to be on it for a long time. And then that series is going to be written by somebody I've not read yet, Mariko Tamaki. This article is making a big deal out of having only the second lady who's written a regular Batman book, and she is from Supergirl Being Super, which I didn't read but heard okay things about. Apparently she's on Wonder Woman right now, and I think she also did some of those like young adult DC novels that I hear nothing but horrible things about, but maybe she's a good writer. I don't know. I've not read her.
I'm alive.
Oh, good. Anyway, so I think suddenly Detective is going to matter again, and could end up being kind of the main Batman book people are buying. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Oh, oops, I put us on the wrong one. We'll use that later.
Like, ooh, we're in a different spot. Ooh.
You were jumping around all over the place.
Awesome.
So is that all we need to talk about as far as news goes?
That's it. That's the show. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
We spent half the show talking about not Batman, but
I mean we've been here long enough to call it a full show. It's been an hour, but we're not nearly done yet, folks.
We go at least 4 on this show.
Dan, are you ready to talk about our definitive Robins?
Oh, sure.
Let's do it. So this is the Robin Show. We had a couple people earlier that were like, when are you going to finally start talking about Robin? Well, just because Robin's not in the title doesn't mean that's all we're talking about. That's just our kind of main featured character for the show today. So we usually pick a definitive version of a character, like, and we haven't only done characters, we've done other stuff too. We did Batmobiles last time we had a regular show, I think. But this time we're going to do Robins, and we decided to do, we might eventually pick an actual Robin character and talk about what the best version of that is in comics and in TV and stuff. What we're doing this time is, who is your favorite character to don that mantle? It's different than what we usually do. So is your favorite Robin your Dick Graysons, or your Jason Todds, or your Tim Drakes, or Carrie Kelly, or anybody who's ever been in the Robin suit? Who is your favorite Robin? So we're not going to be talking about different adaptations this time so much as just characters, because there are lots of different people who have worn that suit. And these days you can't say it's just 5 or 6, because we had, and I never read it, but we had, We Are Robin, and there's been a lot of things that are technically Robins if you want to consider them that. So we'll start with Dan's like we always do. And Dan, who is your definitive character to wear a Robin costume?
I mean, you can't go wrong with Dick Grayson. He's the OG, he's the original. I just love him. I love his trajectory as the character, and him eventually going off and becoming Nightwing. I know that breaches the whole Robin thing, but I think he has. And look, again, another caveat, like every single time, I'm not the most well-read Batman fan ever. I am aware of Damian Wayne, and I've read some Damian Wayne stuff, and I think, what was the movie, Son of Batman? That's the one that really kind of introduced me to that character. I had never heard of Damian Wayne before that. So
Son of Batman's terrible.
No, I know, I wasn't a big fan of that movie either. But I like the idea of, like, I like the concept, obviously. So it introduced me to the concept of Batman having a son, and Damian Wayne being, which is a very interesting take as far as like a Robin goes. But yeah, I love Dick. He's my favorite of the. He's my favorite of the Robins. I'm gonna put him back up here now. Yeah, I love the, and I guess this just speaks more to Batman than Robin specifically, but like, I love the versatility of the character. I mean, you have so many different portrayals. You have Burt Ward. You have the animated series version of Dick. He's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just like any other Batman that isn't Bruce. Like I like Bruce as Batman. I like Dick as Robin, and I like his growth as a character. I guess we just seen most of him out of everybody, but all the other Robins have a really good, story. So, but I just, it's classic for me. It's the classic Robin.
Yeah, it's a little hard for me not to land on that. I'm actually not going to pick Dick Grayson, but of course I've always loved Dick Grayson. Yeah. Growing up, of course, that was Robin. The idea of another Robin was a kind of novel when I was a kid, and kind of a big deal. I'm an old person now. The idea of Batman having a son with Talia that's from the League of Assassins that like becomes his Robin is still so new to me. Like, yeah, I know that's been around for a really long time now. You have a lot of kids that have grown up and like have their own apartments and are driving cars now that grew up with Damian Wayne as. I still don't like that character. I have liked him in things now to some degree, but like I've never been able to get excited about that idea, and I'm too old-fashioned. But some of this does end up being, you know, the character that you grew up with to some degree. I'm in a weird, I don't know if I'm in a unique place. I think a lot of guys my age probably have this, but I was, and I've said this before, looking at several different iterations of Batman at the same time, so I was kind of getting the Batman versatility when I was a kid. So he was simultaneously a really campy character at the same time as he was a really serious, brooding character. And I saw Batman in very lighthearted things at the same time as I saw him in really violent things, or relatively violent things. And so, you know, I could say I'm probably going to pick mine just because it's the one I grew up with, but I grew up with a lot of different Robins and a lot of different versions of Dick Grayson at the same time as a lot of different versions of Batman. But I have to land on Tim Drake, I think. What I like about Tim Drake is that he doesn't have to have the same kind of tragic backstory that Batman and that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson have in order to go the same trajectory they do, at least in becoming a crime fighter. Every time Batman gets a Robin, he has a very different perspective and a very different, like, unique worldview. And I think that's really important, because otherwise you're saying, and I'm talking about this with Dick Grayson now, if your parents get murdered in front of you, this is what you will do. Well, everybody's different. They may not handle it the same way Bruce Wayne did. They may not feel about it the same way that he did. So Dick Grayson is interesting because he becomes Robin for the same reason Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, but he is not as broody, and he is not as prone to, you know, violence and vengeance. And there's not that question of, is he you know, making things worse before he's making things better. And I like he's, you know, Robin always, like, Dick Grayson always felt like Batman, but of another generation. It's just not your father's Batman, that kind of thing. And then Tim Drake takes it one step further and says, I'm the byproduct of a world that does revolve around Batman, and Batman's supposed to be a symbol, and I took the positive things from that symbol and ran with it, as opposed to I was trained by Batman in the first place. So original, traditional Tim Drake goes and finds Batman and kind of makes him make him Robin. And he comes at it very much of his own accord, and like kind of pulls himself up by his bootstraps the same way Bruce Wayne did. Like, he does a lot of training on his own before he even gets to Batman. And arguably, you know, there's always a lot of talk about, like, which of those Robins between Tim Drake and Dick Grayson is the better detective, and I always see Tim Drake as maybe a better detective even than Dick Grayson. And I don't know, just that lighthearted worldview, but still, like, understanding like Batman's philosophy of, well, the police can't get everything done themselves. There's a reason for us to do this. I was like that. I don't need him to end up with a really tragic backstory. At the same time, I also really like the animated series version of Tim Drake, because he's kind of a combination of Jason Todd and the comic book Tim Drake, and that works as well or better for me too. So, like, I like both versions of that character, and I think Tim is at his peak when he's Red Robin, right pre-52, when he's got his own book as that character. That's when he's at its best.
Yeah, I would say probably Tim Drake's the one I know the least amount about, probably, at this point, because I'd say, like, the video games, the Arkham series, is where you kind of get to see, at least for me, it was where I got to spend a lot more time with Tim and kind of understanding that character. And is it typical that he kind of ends up with Barbara in a lot of the comics or other media he's in, or...
that kind of, like, Tim Drake, I think they do it more often with Dick Grayson.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because the animated series did it with Dick Grayson, and
okay.
yeah, I think Dick and Barbara is more of a traditional thing. But again, it kind of just depends on the version. And the animated series played around with Bruce and Barbara also, which always felt sticky to me, and I never really liked that.
I don't like that. I really don't like that.
That just seemed like we've got a main character. Well, and some of it is, you know, kind of kinks of some of those writers, I think. But like, I mean, really, and go back and look at Batman and Harley Quinn, and you can tell I'm right about that. But you've got some of that is just kind of like main character syndrome, where it's like we've got pretty ladies around and we want to have some drama, so we're gonna do, you know, some romances with major female characters. So they dabble a little bit in, or they kind of hint at, you know, the idea of those two getting together. But then when we get to Justice League, it's not Wonder Woman and Superman. It's Wonder Woman and Batman.
Yeah.
So I mean, we do that a lot.
Yeah, I never really watched too much Justice League, if at all, any. Much. That's when I fell off.
I don't mind the idea of doing a version of Tim Drake that would maybe get together with Barbara, but it just depends on the ages, because usually Barbara's quite a bit older than him. OAW says Tim and Stephanie. That's right. We do that more often.
Okay.
And we haven't talked about Stephanie Brown yet. That she was Robin real briefly, and then she had a stint as Batgirl that was really, really good, that I've only read a few issues of, but loved it, and I need to go back and review that at some point. But
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I think, well, Red Robin's probably the Robin I'm least familiar with. So Tim eventually becomes Red Robin?
Mm-hmm. And the Red Robin costume gets invented for Kingdom Come, and then we recycle it and use it as his solo costume when he decides to go off on his own. So instead of becoming something like Nightwing, he keeps, and I think this is so right for Tim Drake, that like when he leaves the nest, as it were, he's a Robin. When he not the cave, but the nest, it's not, he doesn't have that kind of friction with Batman that Dick Grayson did when he left. So when Dick leaves, it's, I have to be entirely my own man. I'm graduating from Robin to another thing. I'm going to be my own dark, brutish vigilante, but not quite as, you know, rough and tumble as Batman. I'm Nightwing, and with, or maybe just as rough and tumble, considering how scary Bloodhaven is. And that is a violent book. But then when Tim Drake does it, he is not just Robin anymore, but he's Red Robin. He hangs on to that mantle. That's how much he kind of romanticizes the Batman and Robin relationship, I think. That was always my read on it.
That's interesting. I like your read.
I always wanted to, somebody mentioned mentioned the restaurant. I always wanted to do a gag. I thought of this 10 years ago, and I wish I'd done it, where I took some video of me reading Red Robin comics, eating at a Red Robin. Yeah, I always wanted to do something with that, but I never had anything but the image. I was like, where would that go? I could have just taken a picture and posted it, but I always wanted to do that as a gag in something.
Red Robin, justice.
Yum.
The Batmosphere is brought to you by Red Robin and Skype.
But yeah, let's see what folks are saying in the comments about their favorites. There's quite a bit here. Solar Dragon, I wish Jason Todd got more appreciation. I see Jason Todd as, and again, this is handled differently in different things, but the Jason Todd I'm most interested in, of course, is the one that like takes the violence too far and brutalizes criminals. And, you know, errs on the side of maybe murder is okay, kind of like Jean-Paul Valley will, but for a totally different reason. And where it's kind of that Robin idea, but twisted, where it's like he took the wrong values from what he learned from Batman. Sort of like what almost happens with the Dick Grayson in the book we're about to read today. But I don't know how anybody could be trained by that guy and not end up going that way. By that psycho crazed Batman who cannot decide if he's the Punisher or not. We'll talk about all that.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
But yeah, so I think of, so like, it would be hard to put Jason Todd as my favorite Robin, because he's more interesting as a is kind of, you know, a flip of Robin. Like he is Faith in Buffy. Like that's what Jason Todd is.
Yeah. Gosh, I need to rewatch Buffy again at some point. I have Buffy and Angel. I gotta watch them.
So let's see what folks are saying here. Ariel Ace, I always have the same answer to the Robin question. Dick is my favorite overall character, but Tim is my favorite to be Robin. And that's a distinction to make, too, because, of course, Dick Grayson has multiple mantles, and there are a lot of people who are big Nightwing fans that might pick a different Robin. I mean, that is a versatile character that ends up, and just has a, long, interesting, sordid history, because, he even has a period where he's not even wearing a suit, where he's a spy and he's Grayson, and I don't like that stuff, but a lot of people do.
I like Dick because he stands up to Batman. Like, he stands up to Bruce. That's one of the reasons why I like him so much. Even before he becomes Nightwing, like, he is willing to call Bruce out on his stuff.
Rohit Dahar, my favorites. If in a solo context is Tim Drake. If in duo context with Batman, Dick Grayson is Robin with Bruce as Batman. And Damian Wayne is Robin with Dick as Batman. That's another distinction to make, because there's a lot of people that, if you say favorite Robin, they have the caveat where it's like, well, who is Batman? Because a lot of people love that duo and really stand by that. Character dynamic that Morrison created between those characters was just a lot of fun and interesting to people. And I haven't read through that whole book, but what I've read of it, I see what people see in it. It's not exactly my thing, but I always saw what people saw in that chemistry.
Are we talking about Dick and Damian?
Yes.
Yeah. I had started to read that
Morrison book,
months and months back, and I did like that dynamic a lot. Yeah. The dynamic duo, classic.
Philip Keaton, I think Robin is a terrible idea. I mean, it's classic, but it's child endangerment.
I mean, yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Well, just wait until we get to this book. Because
so we're going to talk about a book that's all about that, but handles it in the most juvenile way possible.
It's the oh gosh. I'm glad to hear your opinion on it, because when I was reading it, though, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'm just like, okay, yeah.
Let's go ahead and tackle this, though. I thought about making this the Bat Chat topic for today, but I didn't. So we can go ahead and tackle this here. Do you see Robin as Dan as an outdated concept that we only keep bringing back because, as Rohith said, it's classic. It goes back to 1939, 1940. A lot of people don't think that you can have a Batman without a Robin just because they're used to that. That's a different kind of yin-yang thing than you have with the Joker, where you have a more lighthearted vigilante that maybe keeps Batman more grounded, keeps him from going too far. Is it worth doing a thing that is a lot harder to see anybody getting away with in this day and age in real life, just because it's classic?
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird, and I think that's one of the reasons why we see, like, in every single live-action version, he's usually older. But I mean, I guess I'm not really. I haven't seen much of Titans, but like he's either Chris O'Donnell or he's Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the Dark Knight trilogy, and like it's always interesting seeing filmmakers struggle with how do we make this not creepy and not weird, it's weird. Like I generally prefer not having Robin in there, particularly in live action, but like in the cartoon series, it always kind of made sense to me. Like I think it works better as a cartoon, but yeah, it is. I think I definitely agree. It's an outdated thing. It just seems so weird to me. And in this thing we will be reviewing, it only highlights how weird and strange and dangerous it is.
It's only weird if you take it too seriously and if you don't establish what the rules of your universe are and what the internal logic is, right? So I think the reason that, Dan, that you're probably more okay with it in animation is because animation is inherently more heightened, right?
Oh yeah, there's more suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, it's not realistic. And like that show relative to other things felt more realistic, but that is a really stylized show. The best way to handle it is to not talk about it. And if you have a thing that is that feels too real worldy, like you can't have a kid sidekick in the MCU. It looks too much like the world we live in. You can't do that. What's weird is the same thing that makes Batman as kind of like dark and broody as it is the thing that makes that work, which is it doesn't look like our world. It is a more like I said, kind of stylized place, and so all you have to do is just do it and not talk about it. Like when we say that it's an outdated thing, I agree it sort of is, and yet I don't know how many people in 1938 in the real, or 1940 in the real world would have been okay with, a vigilante taking his, like, a 12-year-old kid around with him. Like, that would have still been weird then. Now, we are more concerned about, child neglect, child abuse, child endangerment now than we were back then. But don't you think if a cop saw that might otherwise be okay with Batman running around by himself? They might stop him and be like, I don't know if you should have this, like, 12-year-old kid running away. Like, I think what has become outdated about it is that we expect even superhero fiction, by and large, to look more like the world we live in and to be more relatable. And I think that's the problem. Having said that, it's harder to get away with it in live action in any version, even if it's super stylized. But for some reason, if it's in 2 dimensions, it would be easier to just not talk. I think it's just because you're seeing a real kid play it, and so it already feels more real. Like, that's why it's hard to do it in live action. But I think in comics, I think you can still do it. I think you just need a stylized enough universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, it works so much better in that as opposed to live action.
Yada Yada 95, that's a name I don't recognize. Welcome, that's a great handle. Tim Drake is the first Robin. I feel like is a fully realized character right out the gate, and he had the coolest costume. I agree. Tim Drake's costume is boss from the beginning, and then Red Robin is just as good, if not better.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of stupid things about that book now that I want to talk about.
Well, yeah. Just a minute. I'm glad you have a similar take on it as me.
No, I warned you, man. I told you before we reviewed it.
No, you did tell me. Yeah, you did tell me.
It's infamous.
Yeah.
Chewbacca's Lover, $5 super chat. It's hard for Batman to be sympathetic and not do the crazy Batman with Robin. All-Star Batman Robin is more what it would be like. Again, if you call too much attention to it, I also could see a more realistic version where, Bruce Wayne's heart is in the right place and he's got good intentions, but he just does this, kind of misguided thing. And also the way it's played quite a bit is, well, I'll train. It's sort of that Jedi thing where it's like, I mean, I guess because you're here, I'll train you, but I don't really want to train you. And then he just does his own thing, and like Robin, he just keeps showing up, and like there's not a lot Batman can do to force him to stay behind. I think there's a big difference between Batman intentionally, deliberately, those are synonyms, Batman deliberately trains Robin and then expects him to come with him and put his life at risk at 13 years old, and a Batman who is trying to teach a kid the lessons that he learned to become eventually the vigilante he became, and then let that kid take whatever he will from that and do whatever he wants to, and say, you're not fighting crime until you've graduated from this. And then if that kid just keeps insisting on getting on a motorcycle and going out and fighting crime, how are you going to stop him? Like, those are different ways to tell that story. And if you do the second thing in a more realistic world, I think it works.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Looking at the chat, Frank Miller was very disturbed.
Yeah.
When has he not been?
Sure, and even with his great works, there's always that feeling to some degree. But in the early stuff, some of his characters felt like they sort of real people.
Yeah.
And there was some things rang true. So I guess we'll use that to segue and go ahead and get into that.
Yeah.
So we keep
wanting to breach this, so let's go for it now.
So we're gonna go ahead and review Frank Miller's All-Star Batman and Robin. I hesitate even talking about this. It's ridiculous. So I have to warn anybody that has not seen this before. You're obviously going to see some really rough, violent stuff. You're going to see some very over-sexualized ladies, and you're going to see some vulgarity. Although you're also going to see a lot of blacked out vulgarity, and we'll talk about that because it's hilarious.
All surrounding Barbara Gordon for some reason.
There's a whole thing about that. There's actually a little bit of it in the reprints of the first issue. Or maybe even the original print. we'll talk about it because it's weird. I don't know why they did that the way they did it. But anyway, let's go ahead and bring this up. So here we go. We've got All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder #1. So this is a book that was really super hyped, and we made a big deal out of it because it was the two legends, Frank Miller and Jim Lee, getting together to make a Batman comic. And like so many of Jim Lee's works, it ends up being all style and no substance. And I think, and this is not too long after Hush, and it has the other thing that Jim Lee books often have, which is it was really late. And then eventually they just stopped making it. So I don't know if you know the history on this, Dan, but I don't know how late every issue was. I think there were even like quite a few months between the last 2 or 3 before you even got to 9. I'm not sure if I'm right about that. But what ended up happening was they went to 9, and then it was a long time before 10 came out. Like, people didn't even know if the book was going to return. I don't know if it was as much as a year or even more than that, but I believe, I could be wrong about this, I should have looked this up because I've forgotten now. I think there might have even been an absolute edition of the first 9 because they didn't think 10 would ever come out.
Oh, weird.
But they did trade the first 9. And then, can everybody hear Dan right now?
Hello. Hi, I'm Dan. Looks like I'm coming through the desktop. Yeah, we're good.
Cool. Anyway, I just want to make sure. I got paranoid after you got doubled earlier. So Dan, people didn't know if 10 would ever come out. And then finally it came out, and of course it still has to be continued at the end, and we're still not getting anywhere story-wise. And then they never finished it. And did you have, not to jump to the end right away, and we'll talk about this again later, but did you have the thing I did where 10 feels like almost a different book?
I wondered if it was more wordy because there had been more time to write words. But I mean, I don't know. Like, it's not like it gets any more focused by the time you get to 10.
No, it doesn't. But it feels a little bit less like junior high to me.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, kind of reading them all in a row, it definitely felt different. It felt a little bit more refined for sure. And even Batman's starting to sound a little bit more like Batman. A little bit. He seems to have a little bit more reason. I don't know, man. It's
early
just
on, all the focus is on the edge and the shock for the sake of shock, and the character. Any actual like tender character stuff is very much in the background. And when you see anybody feeling like a person, like a human being with a heart, you get whiplash. And so I want to start this off by saying that this feels like an early 90s Image book. And like almost intentionally. It's almost like these guys are nostalgic for the early 90s, and they have to return back to... And of course, like, Frank Miller goes all the way back to late 70s, but like it just... This whole thing seems like a weird nostalgia fest, and it's really self-indulgent. It's like these guys have lost sight of all the progress we've made in comic storytelling, and they're trying to regress us back to the weirdness of the early 90s.
In my notes, I have in all caps in one bullet point, so edgy.
Yeah.
Like, it is just, it is all of the kind of things that one of the reasons why I don't like some comic books, the over sexualization of women in it, the just, man, I mean, you always get that feeling even when Frank Miller is reining it back, that he wants to push more. Like, that's like the first page, or like that's like
the third page.
The first thing we see is Vicky Vale in her underwear.
Yep. And then it just keeps going.
Yeah. And I like the idea of her being kind of like a Carrie from Sex and the City, where she's like kind of like a little bit of a gossip / sex columnist. Like, that's not the worst idea in the world. I mean, it's not what I've seen her as before, but it's taking that idea and running with that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with let me just say, sexy ladies in comics necessarily. Yeah, I don't think it's bad to, you know your demographic and to maybe have a little bit of eye candy in a thing. I know these days we're getting weirder and weirder about that, and I understand why that's happening. But I think by and large, there's nothing wrong with accentuating, the good features of something that is beautiful. Can I say that? Is that a bad thing to say?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But this is a different thing. This is crossing a line, because not only is it let's just have Vicky in her underwear and butt shots for no reason, and like it's obvious why this is here, but also she seems like a kind of reduced to an object in a book that is also like an indictment against men who reduce women to objects.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of problematic. Like, if I'll go this far, if just for, and I don't like this, but if just because we wanted eye candy, we decided that in this opening scene she's going to be in her underwear, but she's just talking about an article she's writing and it has nothing to do with sexuality, I'm 100 times more okay with it than I am constantly repeating, I'm going to have a date with Bruce Wayne. I'm going to have a date with Bruce Wayne. And also,
that happens in all these books in general. Like, all the characters repeat themselves repeatedly. They just keep saying the same thing repeatedly, over and over again. I don't know what's going on there.
So go back and read the Spawn Batman crossover that Todd McFarlane and Frank Miller did together, because McFarlane drew that and Miller wrote it, and it's written exactly like this, where Miller likes to, and he doesn't. There's a lot of purple prose in early Miller, right? And he does repeated stuff some, but it tends to be more effective in those books. What he'll do here is, it feels like he's just wasting space with it. And honestly, I'm going to go this far. The first 2 or 3 issues of this, but especially the first 2, read to me like he's trying to write something that he can just get done in about 20 minutes. Like these things look like he could have written them like on a cocktail napkin while he's waiting for like steak to be delivered to his table or something. Like, what he'll do is he'll write. We could go find an example. It's all over this, but what he'll do is he'll have a character that, and it's not always when somebody's in shock, because when it's in shock, it's okay. Like, I kind of get it. But
yeah, that makes sense.
But more often, you'll have a character that will say a word, and then they'll say another word to then lead into that word.
Yeah.
Like, we just do that over and over again. It's obnoxious.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was, I mean, and I haven't really read like a whole bunch of Frank Miller, but I've read enough, and I've read a lot of his really great stuff. It was just so weird to me, like, to see this guy who's written some of the best Batman stuff write this thing that just reads so stupidly. Like, it's just so dumb and so horribly structured and
meandery, and has no focus. You don't. Not only do you not know where it's headed, but you also don't know who its protagonist is, because Batman seems to kind of change and transform and go in and out every couple panels or every few pages.
He's insane. I at first, like, the way this was going, at first I thought it was Bruce who set up to have the Graysons killed. Like, the way it is portrayed, I'm like, did he just want to make a Robin, and so he did this? Like, it's explained that it wasn't, but like, I was just,
wouldn't that have made more sense though? And isn't it really unfortunate that, as horrifying as that is, that actually makes more sense than what happens?
Yeah, well, and it just goes to show how directionless this is. If the point was Batman is so far gone that he is, making his own little foot soldier, which he is. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he brings in he kidnaps this kid. The media is portraying it that way, but it's like, oh, he didn't really kidnap him, but I mean, he did.
But he did.
He's like Stockholm syndroming this young little acrobat kid who's really smart and all that stuff, and to becoming his Robin. And I don't even really feel like it's earned once they do get to that point either. It's just so odd, and it's jumping back and forth. It's 5 hours ago, it's now, it's five minutes ago. it's whatever. I guess 40 minutes ago. It's just really weird. And they start doing that towards the end, where it just kind of becomes like annoyed that it has to say what time it is now, and it has a different kind of thing other than just like, 10 minutes ago. It's real. I don't know.
It's bad college fan fiction. Is what it is, written by Frank Miller. I mean, this is what people consider late stage crazy Frank Miller. But he has written things that are a lot more sober and thoughtful and feel like, he's writing about real people. Post this, like his later Dark Knight Returns stuff has been a lot better than this. Nothing as good as Dark Knight Returns, of course, and kind of weird, but like that Dark Knight 3 book is heads and shoulders above this, and like I can take it seriously to some degree, and it's got interesting ideas, and I can talk about what it's about. This cannot decide how much of a satire it is. So here's the thing. If Miller wanted to come in and say, here's all of the potential scary about Batman, this should be a what-if kind of book is what it should be. Like, right? It should be an Elseworlds thing. What this ought to be, because I never want to rewrite anybody's stories. There's an interesting story here. The idea of a Batman who decides to kidnap Dick Grayson and like force him, harden him, make him eat rats, put him in the Batcave, don't let him leave, don't let him, eat hamburgers, and like because he thinks that's what he has to
Crappy
do.
hamburgers, please. Crappy hamburgers.
Crappy hamburgers, yeah. That's what he has to force him to do, so that he'll become what Bruce Wayne did, because Bruce is the only person who has gone through exactly what he did and has exactly the personality he did, but he wants an army. And how do you create a bunch of Bruce Waynes unless you have, like, I don't know, a cloning facility, but to find somebody that has had a tragedy like he has and then mold them to have the same motivations that he did, to be trained the way he did, to have the kind of discipline he does, to make his whole life about violence and taking down criminals and trying to make it to where other kids never have to go through what he did. In his mind, the only way he can do that is to is to force them to go there. They're not going to. Nobody else is going to have the discipline or the motivation to do that themselves. And the main thing he has to do is to make sure that the kid stays angry, that he never gets over his parents' death, just like Bruce did. And that's an interesting idea, but you have to make him in a weird way. I don't know. Could you do that and still make him sort of kind of sympathetic? Maybe. But he is having his cake and eating it too so hard on this, where, like I said, I don't know if it's satire. I don't know if the idea is supposed to be, what if you took that to its furthest extent? If you do, like, everybody in this day and age is, like we were talking about before, is kind of like would be afraid of the notion of Batman, like Bruce Wayne, raising a kid and having him go on patrol with him. So let's take that to its craziest, scariest, weirdest degree. Dan, I don't know if you know this, but at the same time as he's doing that, and he's going, some people think Batman's a crazy person. Let's just make him a straight up crazy person. What does that look like? Frank Miller also considered this, and maybe he still does, as part of his canon. So this is supposed to be... Well,
they're making references to Year One.
And Dark Knight Returns. Because with the Joker, he's got that Russian Nazi hench chick from Dark Knight Returns. So at the same time as he's going, let's look at Batman at his most insane. If you took it to its furthest extent, what would it look like? He also wants it to fit into his own work. So this is supposed to be the same Batman from Year One, and the same guy that will turn into the Batman from The Dark Knight and, Dark Knight Returns. And I always got the sense that the extreme stuff that he does in Dark Knight Returns is because he did it for so long, and then he was out of the game for so long, he's kind of lost it a little bit, and he's also comparing himself so hard to Superman that he's overcompensating. That's not this guy. That guy can't have already been that far gone before he later gets there. Dark Knight Returns doesn't work if you put this with it. And I don't know that Year One does either. That's a way more reasonable Batman. You can't tell me that he turns into this after just a year or two. This is still really early stage Batman.
Yeah, he's inspiring. This Batman's inspiring a bunch of other heroes to come out. He's inspiring Black Canary, Yeah, he's inspiring Batgirl. He's, you know, just in the one scene where he's saving the lady who's being assaulted in the alleyway. You know, he's kind of just she immediately through seeing his example is being brought on to like start assaulting her assaulters.
Yeah.
Like this is a Batman that's inspiring a bunch of people very early on in this universe. But this whole thing is just, it's so muddy and messy and weird, and
it's dirty. It makes you want to take a shower. Like,
it's really icky.
And again, it could be icky in a more like thought-provoking and sophisticated kind of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was like a dark deconstruction of Batman. But here's what's weird. So you look at a page like this, and Batman is enjoying himself too much.
He's like laughing all the time.
Yeah, he's just this maniacally and some of it is Frank Miller buying his own press, right? So he's trying to superficially give people what they remember from his best stuff. So it's like Dark Knight Returns, we remember a smiling Batman. Again, the context was different. He got there in a different way. He's a different character page to page here, and there are places where there's too much retroactive stuff. There are places where I feel like Miller is probably consciously aware of how unlikable his Batman is, so he will just, again, kind of superficially try to throw us a bone, and then immediately walk the bone back. So he goes, you know, Batman's, like, enjoying kind of torturing this kid. And then we'll get another page where he's like, oh my God, what have I done? What am I doing to this kid? This is horrible. I shouldn't be doing this. But it's a necessary evil. I have to. And then, you know, if you had a really sober Batman who was like putting on a character where he's more or less the Batman that we're more familiar with, but he thinks he has to, kind of like he does with criminals, right? He puts on like a scarier face, and like, again, in order to turn Dick Grayson into Robin, he thinks he has to make himself the bad guy. But then, like, he cries himself to sleep every night because he doesn't like that, right? Because he doesn't like that he has to do that to this kid. Occasionally he seems like that, and then what we'll do after that, you know, he'll be second guessing himself. It's like, oh God, this is horrible. What am I doing? But then we'll get a scene like this where he's like, you know, driving the Batmobile all recklessly and trying to freak this kid out, and then you'll have, you know, you'll have him like, again, contemplating and feeling bad, and then you'll have another page where he's like, my favorite part is the violence.
He says cool a lot. Cool.
This is really cool. I love beating the crap out of criminals.
Yeah. Looks like someone put out a kill order out on me. Cool. He's so into it.
You know, and then, like, talking about the over-sexuality thing, like...
Oh, God.
You know, you get this crazy thing
also
with Black Canary.
having, like, she's being, like, the whole time, she's being, you know, catcalled and, you know, being fed every line in the book by all these people, and she's being spoken down to constantly. But then the entire fight scene where she's empowered to, you know, fight back... all you see is her crotch and her butt and her
the book
boobs.
itself is doing the same thing to her that these guys are, and I don't understand what I'm supposed to take from that. Like, what is the book saying? Is it like, it reads to me like justification, where it's like, well, it's fine to over-sexualize a character who is empowered to be more than what we're reducing them to. That's not how that works. Just make her sexy and empowered. Right? Like, those things don't have to be mutually exclusive. It's different than being, like, gross and dirty with it. Like... Yeah. I just think sexy is different than over-sexualized. And, like, everybody's going to draw their line on that differently. And there are things that people will call sexist that I don't agree with. But, like, you know, this is the traditional Black Canary outfit. The way we're drawing it, it makes her look like she's a, like, nightclub dancer.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, it's just mixed messages.
Sleazy. Mixed messages. That's exactly right. It's really sleazy looking.
Yeah. And to the back, like on the also, you know, Batman kind of contradicting himself thing.
That scene goes on so long for no reason.
I know. Well, there's a lot of that in this. There's just a lot of that in this, where it just meanders and it doesn't know where it's going. And I as a reader, like, I read 10 issues of this. I couldn't tell you where any of this was going the entire time.
It all feels like prologue.
Yeah.
The whole thing feels like... I mean, by issue 9 maybe, but especially 10, it finally feels like the story is maybe going somewhere. once we introduce the Joker, but like we don't have any idea what he even is yet. He's there for like 3 issues and nothing happens.
Yeah, barely comes around. Well, he only popped up the once. No, did he?
No, he's there twice.
Okay.
Because he shows up. He shows up in 10 to Catwoman.
Oh yes. Yep, you're right.
But I think he's introduced in 8 or 9.
Yeah, and then he's gone.
I want to say it's 8 that has that cover with the dragon tattoo on the back.
Yeah.
Where we see
the Joker
that
with the dragon tattoo.
Where we see that sort of like a War of Jokes and Riddles Joker, where he looks like the Joker, but he has a frowny face.
Yeah, I don't even get this Joker either. Like, he's just cruel, which I mean, I get the Joker is cruel, but like, there's nothing else to them other than he's cruel.
Not yet, but I also can't assume that there ever will be.
Like, we just didn't get any sort of glimpse into anything from him. Usually there's something to hook me with, but it was just like, okay, he's with this lady who he clearly just slept with, and now he's killing her. And on to the next scene. Dispose of this body, Russian Nazi lady. It was just, I just couldn't. I was like, what is this leading to? And I guess reading it and knowing that there was no ending to it either was even more of a bit frustrating, because there's just there's nothing for me to hook into outside of the whole Batman Robin stuff, which even then it was that was the most fleshed out thing of the entire story. But where was it heading? What was it doing?
Yeah, and it's unnecessarily uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, it's so self-indulgent. I mean, he's really enjoying... It feels to me like Frank Miller is really enjoying doing that to that kid. That's probably not the intention, but that's how it reads. The other heroes are really kind of pointless, and Batman is really good at making everyone in his book less sympathetic, because they all treat him too much like traditional Batman, and he's not traditional Batman. That's my biggest issue with the Justice League in this. Superman doesn't do anything. Like we keep setting up some kind of confrontation and we never get there. So some of this is just, it drags on too long, and maybe we wouldn't feel that way as much if we saw where it all went. But because we never get the rest of it, I don't know what we were doing with Superman. But it's like, we're just, because that's a Frank Miller thing, it's just Batman constantly comparing himself to Superman, and it kind of giving people certain character traits based on, or like worldviews somewhat based on how they see Batman and Superman, I feel like, where it's like, Superman's either cool or Batman's cool, and that's partly how we're, drawing characters. I don't know, because you had that with Vicky Vale at the beginning. Yeah.
What is with that scene with Wonder Woman meeting the other future Justice League people? What is with that scene? What is with Wonder Woman?
Dan just keeps wanting to jump ahead. We can jump up there.
Yeah, there she is. It just doesn't make sense. She goes on this long tirade about men.
The first thing she does is call a guy in an alleyway a sperm bank.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand what it's supposed to mean or be. Like, yes, I get it, she's an Amazonian and she grew up on an island full of ladies and all that stuff, but like, is she just a man hater? Or like, I just don't. But the scene ends with her and, like, I don't know, because it's not clear visually what's happening, but her and Superman make out.
They just make out. Yeah.
After she completely just craps on Superman, and then either he pulls her in or I don't know what's happening. Visually, it doesn't set up what's happening. I'm like, what? It just hurts my brain. Like, what's happening? I don't understand. This book constantly says something and then does the opposite.
Yeah,
of
that's exactly
what
right.
It says.
I think he just likes her because she's hot, man.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot of that in this book.
It's just, I don't get it.
So you get the sense that the idea is supposed to be that eventually the Justice League will be like actually altruistic and help people and optimistic and idealistic, but like, for whatever reason, right now, they're more cynical, like the real world, and they're all, like, really, again, cynical archetypes. So I don't see any of them and then Plastic Man's just Plastic Man. Okay, but
he's there for the joke.
But I don't see any of, and that confuses things too, right? Because it's like, well, we need some levity in the scene, and we need it to feel like it could turn into like the traditional DC universe. But again, the word of the day is superficial. It doesn't feel like it can get there because these characters are all so one note, and I just keep going back to like bad college fanfic where it's like he's writing scenes before he's writing characters. It's like, here's the thing I've always wanted to see. I just want to see like Wonder Woman, like taking her to her furthest extent. She's a feminist icon, so we're gonna make her a total man-hater. And wouldn't it be funny to, a lot of this feels like a very cynical, wouldn't it be funny if, and we put her with the Justice League, and she hates, she hates men, and she's just mean to everyone. Yeah. And then we'll just have her make out with Superman at the end.
Yeah. Superman will really shut her up by making out with her. Like, and that happens later in the book as well.
Oh, I didn't think of it like that. But I also don't know which of them initiates it, like
later,
you said.
Later in the book, like one of the characters is just saying "shut up" to a lady. Like, I can't remember who.
There's
or
a lot
what
of
point that. But it's just like. That's how it reads for me. Like, it's just so, I don't know. It's broken my brain, Cap. It's just broken my brain.
It's hard to talk about because it's so counterintuitive. It's like, how did we even get here? Like, how did this get published?
Like, what was the concept? What was the selling point outside of just the Robin? I guess it was just the Robin introduction stuff. It's like what Frank Miller doing his introduction of Robin within his his canon of Batman, but I don't. And it just meanders for so long.
It's all about deconstruction, but he's not doing it with any kind of care. So it just reads like a 40 or 50 something year old man like playing with action figures the way he would have when he was 7. Then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen. It's like, why? I don't know. We do a lot of stuff where he'll write himself. This is the thing that drives me crazy. He writes himself into corners, and then tries to write out of those corners in the kind of like sloppiest way possible. So one of the biggest examples of that is he's got Batman kidnapping Robin in front of everybody, or kidnapping Dick Grayson in front of everybody. Everybody knows Batman took him.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it didn't even occur to Frank Miller when he wrote that in the first issue. Well, gee, how can he go out with Robin in the future if everybody knows that he kidnapped a kid? They're all going to put 2 and 2 together and know that Dick Grayson is Robin, because it wasn't Bruce Wayne that kidnapped him. He wasn't wearing some other thing. It was Batman, and it was captured on video, and everybody saw it. And it's issues and issues before we finally get an explanation for how Batman's going to try to handle this. Like, Dick even brings it up later, and Batman's like, no, I got a plan. I'll figure it out. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then later, he tries to explain it to Green Lantern, where he's being all condescending, and like Green Lantern can, Hal Jordan can read right through it, of course, and he's like, no, that's not Dick Grayson, that's some other kid that just wants to be a crime fighter. He's doing this for his own accord. And then Dick Grayson like goes on television and tells everybody, no, I didn't get kidnapped, that didn't happen. And it's like, sure, like that would work.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating because it would be easy to come back and say, well, Cap, it's not supposed to be realistic, so some of these things are gimmies. It's like your traditional superhero thing where you have characters pretending to be other people. They have their alter egos, and so you just have to suspend your disbelief on that. Nah, because we're talking about it. Because we have Dick Grayson coming right out and saying this shouldn't work, this will never work, and then the answer to why people end up buying it is, well, he wrote himself in a dumb corner. He shouldn't have written it like that. It didn't make any sense to have it happen that way, but he wrote it that way. I mean, it's juvenile, it's lazy, and it feels, every one of these until you get to issue 9 or 10 reads like he wrote them in an afternoon.
Yeah. Well, and he had a very extended period of time to write the 10th one, so It always, and I'm not like the most up to date comic person, and from my understanding of it, sometimes that's just how runs go, where they don't really fully know where it's going. But like, if I'm going to tackle a thing, I would like to have an idea of the ultimate trajectory. Yeah, it can change as you go, and you can kind of have different ideas come up. But like, why would you not have in mind a beginning, middle, and end? Or at least a beginning and an end point, and then kind of going from there. I just don't understand. This is
even worse than that, because I agree with you when you said it. I don't even know what the concept is exactly. It's like he didn't start with an idea beyond, what if Batman taking a Robin was scary?
Yeah.
Because I think that is the initial germ of this. But I think you have to write that as kind of an Elseworlds thing.
Yeah, it's such a... I feel like I'm going to be just so redundant this entire time, but it's just so weird. Like, it's so strange to me seeing Frank Miller write something that's so juvenile and just nonsensical. And
well, again, I have read this before, but also... Spawn Batman is like this. I've heard Holy Terror is kind of like this. Like, he's got this mode in him later on. Like, that's not surprising to me. What's surprising is how, like, completely lacking in forethought, but also heart it is. It's just... I don't know how a thing like that comes together. I don't get it. Like, for me, it's more, how did Frank Miller get to that place in his life, I think, than it is, like... the particular piece, because this happens a few times. You get this book a few times with him.
Yeah,
this is the craziest example of it, of what I've read. I've not read Holy Terror.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not I've only really kind of read the highlights of his career, so I can't really speak to I have heard of the decline of his work, but this is my first experience of it, and it's something else, man. It's just so weird to me.
It also starts with a weird, massive kind of story contrivance, which is Batman has been watching Dick Grayson for a long time, kind of just hoping that something really tragic would happen to him. Not really. That's not what he says. What he says is he was waiting for him to grow up, or he's just watching him. He was just looking for somebody like skilled enough. But it also reads like he needs someone. Again, this just isn't thought out. It also reads like he needs somebody to have the tragedy that he did, so that he can mold him into what he became. But that's actually not what he's trying to do at the beginning. What he's initially trying to do is just follow somebody that has the potential, physically and agility-wise, like the abilities, that he learns from the circus, to do what Batman does on a nightly basis, and then he just gets lucky that guy's parents get murdered, and that he's there when it happens. Okay. He would have immediately telegraphed what this was, what the tone and the cynical nature of it, and just how far he was willing to take Batman if he had actually done the crazy thing you suggested and was responsible for murdering Dick Grayson's parents. If the idea of this is most horrifying version of Batman, but with all the regular Batman trappings, I would have started there. I would have had Batman kill Dick Grayson's parents to make him into Robin in the first place, and just do the absolute flip of Batman. Because part of the having his cake and eating it too that doesn't work with this too is how much of the rest of Bruce Wayne's life is the same. Again, he makes everyone around him less sympathetic by virtue of their putting up with him. Alfred shouldn't be there, like, at all. Yeah. Why is he there? He's like, I won't have you make this kid eat rats. Why are you, like, being an accomplice to kidnapping?
Yeah. Well, that whole portion of Batman giving Dick the option of, like, are you going to be a detective or are you going to be an Avenger? Yeah. Like, are you going to kill him or...
This page we're looking at here, this is the guy who killed his parents.
Yeah. And this is where we end up finding, you know,
we also don't talk much about why. I don't really know what the situation was, why this guy killed his parents, really. Like,
well, he reveals that it was the Joker who was the guy who hired him to kill him, but we don't find anything out about that.
We don't know why Joker was doing that.
Yeah, and we just never find out. But we find out that Joker was the guy who hired the man to kill the Graysons for some reason. Why does the Joker want to kill circus performers? I don't know. But maybe they put on a bad show once and he was just feeling really vindictive that day, but weird. And it's just so,
I want to think something about the circus made him unfunny. He keeps going on and on about how he's the Joker, but he's not funny. And I wonder if the idea was ever that he's so, we haven't seen the Joker yet, looking at this chronologically, but we'll get there in a second. But I'm wondering if it's either that it's an ironic thing where he's not, in his mind, he's not supposed to be funny, and he just, like Batman, uses the Joker makeup to scare people or to, you know, surprise people, this twisted thing. Or if at one point, if it's like War of Jokes and Riddles, I kept thinking of that. He was funny, but now he's not funny, and he doesn't like that.
I don't know. There's very little to latch into. I mean, the art is amazing in this. Like, Jim Lee is a really great artist in my opinion. It's just like,
I think so too, and there are some beautiful full-page spreads. One of the things that drives me crazy about it, though, is that I want it to be a poster book before I want it to a story, and sometimes it is that. You have a lot of padded out issues. You know, we a couple issues ago we saw it. I held on it for a while. That full page spread where it was Batman just, you know, in the sky with his wings out. There's nothing happening in that scene, like, at all.
Yeah, and like I feel like the first maybe like 5 issues read pretty quickly. It definitely gets wordier as it goes, and I think there's more thought put into it somewhat. You know, and like we said, though, like I think that issue 10 is the wordiest. Like I think it got to that point, and it had been, maybe it wasn't being received very well. That's what the reason for the big time gap. Maybe Frank Miller was like, okay, I actually have to start putting thought into where this is going.
Yeah.
So that's why 10 feels like that kind of reshift a little bit, but. Yeah, I mean, I guess only he will know. Do you think one day they'll just like, let's just finish it, or do you think it's just something like this would never come back?
At this point, I doubt it. It's been over a decade.
Do people still talk about it at all? Like it
comes up. The big thing that comes up is the GD Batman, of course, and I think it maybe came up, and I could be wrong about this. It maybe came up a little bit more often after BVS and the Dark DCEU, and I want to talk about that whole thing because I hadn't thought about it a whole lot, you know, after that, but I should have, because Snyder was clearly you know, really interested in Frank Miller's work and was talking about how much he was, you know, inspired by Dark Knight Returns, and he put all that iconography there, and it's that suit and everything. Yeah. But the tone and the attitude and the sophistication or lack thereof in characterization is this. It's this Frank Miller. Yeah. And I don't know if that's Snyder looking at, and I really doubt this, I don't know if that's Snyder looking at everything Frank Miller and not understanding what makes early Frank Miller good and what makes this stuff awful, or if it's Snyder not understanding Frank Miller at all and coming to the same place that crazy late stage Frank Miller came to.
Yeah. I mean, it's been very clear for decades at this point that Zack Snyder is, decade plus. Zack Snyder is a big fanboy of Frank Miller all the way around, and I don't think he takes all the right things from Frank Miller's Batman, because there is a lot of that, like, not that Batman takes glee in killing people in BVS, but like like in the,
but he does,
very
the
flippant
directing
about it.
Does the cinematography does.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the kind of like stylization of Batman, just like laughing maniacally while he's burning people with the jet, like from the Batmobile and stuff, and just like killing people with like flaming bleach and
but somehow not killing them.
I don't know.
Apparently, you get the sense that, because we talk about how Batman's criminal, or the criminals that he fights are his victims in this. And like I said, he's not any different than the Punisher to me here, except he gets off on it, so that makes him worse. But we, again, having our cake and eating it too, we see him brutalize people to the point where if they don't die, it's almost an accident that they're not dead. Like, it seems like Batman is absolutely fine with them dying, kind of trying to kill them, and he just gets lucky all the time. He has this plot armor of, well, he's Batman, so he's not supposed to kill, so he just doesn't. Well, this Batman doesn't carry a gun, so he must still be, you know, the Batman. No, he's not. He's early Batman Returns Batman, right? Like, he is setting people on fire, like you said, with bleach. And... then he loses it when Dick Grayson goes too far in brutalizing Hal Jordan. And I get that Hal is a superhero, and that's why Batman has a problem with that. But what does he expect? The example he's setting is if you don't like someone, beat the crap out of them and make sure that they not only feel it, but that they remember it forever. This Batman makes a big deal out of if somebody... you know, is a rapist or a murderer or whatever it is, and obviously all those things are horrible, give them a injury that they'll never recover from.
Yeah, the compound fractured that dude's arm when, you know, he's saving that lady, and he was just like, you know, you're gonna remember that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's just I didn't even like. I took him as him killing people, like especially with that bleach scene and the way he like turns the afterburner of the Batmobile to those cops and stuff. Like there's explosions and stuff. Like there's no way. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah, no, there is no way. I see it as exactly the same thing that Snyder did in BVS. Going back to that, where the narrative is telling us. I want to talk about this in a second. The narrative is telling us one thing, and the story, the action is telling us something else entirely. So I've always talked about the two Batmans in the Snyder movies, where you have the Batman that is clearly killing people, and then you have the way everybody else talks about him. This has exactly that problem. He cannot be murdering people if the Justice League are okay with him and even inspired by him. And like they make a big deal out of, you know, Hal Jordan in the infamous Yellow Room scene where he's like, we like that you're trying to help people. We're even fine with you just going after, you know, lowlifes on the streets, but we're not okay with your methods. They would go, I would think, a lot farther if he was actually killing people. I think in Superman and Hal Jordan's minds, Green Lantern's minds, he's not actually killing anyone. It's like the BVS thing where, oh my God, now he's branding people. Who cares that he's branding people? He was setting them on fire. It's exactly that same thing.
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned earlier about the Robin going too far and nearly killing Hal Jordan, and he scalds, like Batman overreacts, scalds him, punches Robin, throws him into the wall to the point where he's bleeding, and then is yelling like, "You can't do that!" And I'm like, me reading that, I'm just like, you set this example. You've only shown him this. What are you expecting? And then the next scene, Batman's kind of like being really hard on himself and saying like, oh, he's saying all the things that I was saying to myself. But like,
that doesn't make it better. That doesn't make it work. It's like Miller thinks that as long as we comment on it retroactively, that makes it okay. And if we were consistent with it, maybe if the idea was Batman is a loose cannon, he's a sociopath, he doesn't want to be that, but that is what he is, and he's trying to do better, but he keeps making the same mistake over and over again. That's one thing. What I'm seeing is a character that changes depending on what Miller wants me to take in the moment.
Yeah.
So in this scene, Robin is trying to pick his superhero name, and Batman says, you gotta go find a mask. And, like, he's a billionaire, and he could just go get him a mask. But instead, he's like, go find one. He's like, okay. So he just runs all over the Batcave. He's like, there's all this cool stuff here. I guess I'll find a way to put on a costume.
Yeah, Alfred, he talks to Alfred about putting together a suit. So Alfred helps him out.
Yeah. And Batman doesn't want Alfred to ever help him, so I don't know how he really expected him. What would he learn from that lesson where it's like, well, there's all these amazing things in this cave, but there's not any, like, masks or anything, so you have to make your own Like, if Robin started ripping things that Batman had apart in the Batcave to make his suit, would Batman, like, be like, oh, you're resourceful? Would be like, oh, that cost $35,000. Don't do that. Like, I don't know what he was supposed to do. But anyway, so he goes, he likes Robin Hood. And he goes, there's a whole Robin Hood motif that's not interesting. There's no like, you know, cool symbol there or anything to like, you know, read into. But he likes Robin Hood. He's like, I'm going to be the Hood, which is really funny pre-Arrow, but I digress. He's like, I'm gonna be the Hood, and Batman goes, that's stupid, and he takes it, because he's always saying everything Robin does is stupid, and he takes his hood, and he puts it down, and he's like, you know, think about all the things that can happen to you in a fight if you're wearing this hood, like the bad guy's just gonna pull it down over your head, and I'm thinking, you're wearing a big ass cape, Batman.
Yeah. No, I know. It's dumb.
I don't understand. Now, I will say, I'm okay with that being where the name Robin comes from. I kind of like that. Like, I've never seen that before, where it's like, he thought of the Hood out of Robin Hood, and Batman goes, no, you're just Robin. I like that. What I don't like is all the places where Batman just goes with regular Batman iconography and names for things, because that's what we're stuck with. And they sound silly in this context because we have to be self-aware about everything. It's like, this guy wouldn't call it the Batmobile, but he calls it that because it's the Batmobile.
And everybody makes fun of him for it.
Yeah, and
he
so
gets
then,
so upset.
Is he just an eccentric psychopath? Like, I don't understand what his... Sorry about the plumbing there. I don't understand what his whole... What am I trying to say? Like... fantasy is, because I mean, I like the idea of a Batman that's so like into himself and narcissistic that he has to like label everything and put bat symbols on everything, but like he doesn't realize how kind of into himself he is. That was a read I always had on the 60s Batman, where like he's so good at everything he doesn't realize that he's in love with himself, and he puts his own symbol on everything, and like I was like that. With this, I don't know where any of that comes from.
He's OCD. Everything has to have a bat on it.
I don't know. I don't get it. So there's the yellow room scene we were talking about.
So what? I have never heard this before. that Hal Jordan, that the Green Lantern has this like aversion to yellow, like yellow is his kryptonite, like
that's
sort
gold,
of deal.
That's Golden Age Green Lantern. So the Green Lanterns can't. That's their kryptonite. That's just the arbitrary thing that they picked for kryptonite. Yellow is somehow the opposite of green or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, red's the opposite of green, but
I mean, I know that.
No, I don't understand. It was really dumb, because that the very first shot we see is them face to face in that issue. And I just thought it was a style thing that he was all yellow. Like, I thought it was really bright or something. And then the next frame is like just this room painted yellow. And I was like, what is going on?
He's throwing everything at the wall is what's happening. It's like he's channeling his inner Morrison and going, I'm going to go to old, cool Golden Age things, and I'm going to put them in a more serious, you know, scary context. And it doesn't work. Like, this kind of, you know, more absurd stuff just makes me ask a lot more questions.
He's drinking lemonade.
Don't feel like this is I don't know what the lemonade thing is about.
Because it's yellow.
Yeah, I know, but he keeps making a big deal out of trying to get Hal Jordan to drink it. Like, would it hurt him if he swallowed it because it's yellow? Is that the idea? I guess maybe. I don't know. No, this is borderline like reading anything Neil Adams has put out in the last 12 years. Because Neil Adams is a crazy person now. He certainly reads that way, and anytime he puts out a book, it's incomprehensible. He had a Batman book. I can't remember the name of that, and then there was Coming of the Supermen, which was insane, and had a whole thing about like Lex Luthor hating Superman because he had hair, and it was insane. And this is like a somewhat more coherent version of that, but it comes from the same place where it's like a really out of touch older guy who was doing comics decades ago who has just like lost sight of even good storytelling from back then, much less you know, modern stuff and like the way that we've evolved the medium.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know this is like 15 years old, but this very much does read like something that was from a different time completely.
Yeah. Which is weird because, of course, I mean, like I say all that, it's not like when you go back to Miller's earlier stuff, a lot of it doesn't still hold up pretty well. Like his Daredevil is very readable. It's a little wordier than what you'd have now, but it's really readable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's nuts.
My favorite line from this entire thing is "Bats suck." Just FYI.
Why did? So clearly, maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna say, what's up?
Batman also said, "Makes me want to get some crippling done."
Yes, that's in there.
Sorry. Continue.
Miller. And by the way, I haven't been looking at comments this whole time because I've
yeah, sorry everybody. It's tough for me to listen to Cap and read the comments at the same time. I have to process everything.
Yeah, well, I don't have them in a place where I can look at them right now because of the way I have this set up. So even three monitors is not enough right now. So I'll look at comments when we're done. Usually when we're reviewing though, there's not a whole lot of comments. So we'll take a look here in a second. But I was gonna say. I think Miller really wanted to call this book the GD Batman. Like, I think that was the original title.
They say it probably about 20 to 30 times in the entire run.
And what's weird about it is it's not just Batman who says it. Like, he didn't just come up with it. People come up with it independently on their own. Everybody comes up with the GD Batman. Yeah.
This whole thing, the thought that came to mind was Rob Zombie's Halloween movies.
That's awesome. You're absolutely right about that.
The second Halloween movie that he did, I couldn't stand. I only watched 20 minutes of it because every single character in that movie talked like Rob Zombie talks.
Yeah.
They're just all horrible trash people the entire movie, and I just don't understand. And look, I like Rob Zombie. I like some of his stuff, but goodness gracious, he's just not the strongest writer. And that's what I get from this. Everybody is talking like what Frank Miller thinks would sound cool.
Yeah. And it's so mean-spirited. I'm supposed to be enjoying it because of how mean-spirited it is, but then Frank Miller, knowing that people are going to be reading this that don't like that, keeps trying to appease them with pages that don't count, where Batman goes, oh, wait a minute, this is a bad idea. And he just goes and does everything anyway and is enjoying it. This is just the pose from the famous Hush cover.
Well, that's does
all that is.
That pose is a couple times. It's not the
only. But because
frame,
it's a full page spread, this especially makes me go, oh, that's just the Hush cover.
Yeah. Except
he's with Nightwing on the Hush cover, where like Nightwing's running behind him, but here it's Robin, and I don't know if he's just homaging himself or.
Yeah, there's definitely some Dark Knight Returns.
That also looks a lot like a panel in Hush when he's at the Jason Todd gravesite. Yeah. I do believe that looks a lot like that also. Yeah, but anyway, I'm not even making any particular point with that. I'm just noticing these things.
Yeah, there are a lot of visual homages in there.
So I want to talk about the profanity. This is a book that should have simply had a mature readers only label on the front of it, and then had whatever it wanted to in it. I'm of two minds, I guess, I'll say, about the blacking out of profanity versus putting in, like, the symbols, like the asterisks and stuff. I like blacking it out better because it's like he actually wrote a word and then they're just censoring it after the fact. Clearly Frank Miller didn't want to be censored. I mean, it's Frank Miller. He doesn't want to be censored, but he clearly just wrote a thing and then they decided to black it out. This should have just had a mature label so that we didn't have these awkward blackout things on them. And it seems like from the beginning, the plan from editorial was always to have those blacked out, because I don't know if you know this, but the first printing of this book is a little rare and worth a little bit of money. I've got one because it has the blackouts, but they blacked it out wrong, so you can see.
You can still see the word.
The word underneath it, yeah. The print still comes through. You can see what they said.
There was one point in the book, one of the books, I don't know which one it was, but where it says, editor's note, we can't print Jocko Boy's response due to standards of decency. The response demands an anatomical impossibility.
They think that's hilarious.
What?
I don't think that's a censorship thing. I think they cannot decide what kind of comedy they're making here.
It was
or even if it's
it was such a weird meta, like, I just didn't get what that meant or was. I mean, I get it, but, like...
I rolled my eyes at that so hard.
I don't understand.
Issue 10 has so many words blacked out.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and it's like, if you... At that point, he knows that he's going to get blacked out. So why write like that? Like, just don't do it.
And it's all surrounding Batgirl. Almost all the censorship is revolved around Batgirl, which is, I mean, I guess because she's a teenager or whatever.
Well, I guess he's just decided that practically everybody talks like this. It's like, it's very Deadpool. It's just like everybody's got to have a potty mouth. And I don't buy that this character does. And in her introduction in issue 3, she seems a lot more, like idealistic and like more almost wholesome. We're like, yeah, she's going out and fighting crime because she has a thirst for adventure. But later on, it seems like she has a thirst for violence for no reason.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, here, you keep talking about the potty humor. I actually have to go potty real fast.
Okay.
I've drank so much liquid.
No, when you get back, I may do the same thing, honestly.
Okay. 1 second.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Sure.
Keep talking, Cap.
Batgirl shows back up in this issue kind of just to be written out, and I gotta say issue 10 is kind of the best issue because we finally get more involved in character stuff, and it's not so much just gimmicky shock factor. It's actually about this relationship, and I kind of like how how much Gordon is kind of understanding with his daughter. Like, he's made a lot of mistakes also, and by the time he sees what Barbara's been doing, he doesn't feel like he can even really reprimand her that hard, because he's been sleeping around on his wife, and his wife is in really bad shape, of course. Again, this is another place where we're clearly piggybacking off of things that we did from year 1, because that's where we establish the affair with Sarah. But this issue is also really overwritten. I mean, there's so many words on a page, and all this stuff with Black Canary, I don't even know what she's talking about. Like, I don't care. I had a really hard time not just skimming this stuff. She beat up some child molesters, I think. Like, that's all I took from that. That's all that really matters. I will give Miller that he's not writing her phonetically. She's supposed to have an Irish accent. It was too long before I realized she was supposed to have an Irish accent. But I guess I like that he's not writing, all the phonetics of the accent. So that's cool. But like I said, there's kind of a heartfelt, tender scene between him and Barbara at the end. I also like that both Barbaras are kind of in trouble at the same time. I will say, Dan, that's a thing I've never seen before, where Gordon has to deal with both Barbaras in peril at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I started to get involved in that story a little bit at the end.
Yeah. With the one Barbara being kind of an alcoholic. What does she... I guess they don't really touch on what she does, but I'm just assuming Gordon's such a workaholic and distant that she's just driven to alcoholism.
And, like, really severe alcohol poisoning, apparently. Because, like, if she goes home, she'll die.
Yeah.
And then, like, we've got to get her into detox. And I'm like, that sounds like we're past detox. I don't know. Like...
Yeah. Well, we're introduced to that situation with him talking to Sarah, I guess a fellow officer that he knew from Chicago days.
No, you remember Sarah, right?
Not off
That's
the top
year
of my
1.
head, no.
That's so he's having an affair with her. That's Sarah.
Okay.
He's still talking to her.
Yeah, well, and it's his, like, emotional grounding is talking to her. Like, after even when Barbara's in the hospital, and his daughter even recommends, like, why don't you talk to Sarah? That always makes you feel better. Like,
yeah. Even though she doesn't like it, she knows that's the only thing that'll help him.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
He's really consistent with that from year 1. That's part of what makes this so freaking awkward.
Yeah.
And that's also part of why I'm saying that it's a different book by 10 to some degree. Yeah. Where it's like he's sobering up and he's trying to, like, finally tell a story, and it's like he's got all of the crazy shock stuff out of his system. Where before it was just, let's throw a thing on the page that I think looks cool, and now it's like, okay, I guess I better actually start taking this somewhere. But
well, I mean, just look at this page. Like this, there's so much dialogue on this page,
and it's
like,
really overwritten. He's gone too far the other way now.
Yeah, because it started off being underwritten, and now it's just like words everywhere.
It would take me 7 to 10 minutes to read each issue before this, and this issue probably took half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Odd.
I also thought it was kind of weird that we introduced Batgirl just to get rid of Batgirl.
Yeah.
Because once Gordon knows that she's Batgirl, I don't know how she could keep being that. It's almost like, and I don't know what he would have done with that after. Maybe he would have had her come back. Maybe she would start doing it more for the right reasons instead of just, you know, going out for the heck of it like it kind of is here. But I kind of feel like it's sort of him just, you know, dipping his toe in that, where it's like, well, I haven't had Batgirl in really any of my other stuff that I can think of. So, like, what actually happened to Barbara Gordon? I just haven't messed with that. So, well, she had one outing, and then Gordon found out who she was. And there's a part of me that likes that if we were trying to do a more realistic thing, where it's like, this is what would happen if Barbara was Batgirl. This is what would happen if Dick Grayson was taken in by Batman. But it can't decide if that's what it is. So, I can't get excited about that.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's just a frustrating read all the way around.
So
Thank
anyway,
you for making me read it, Cap.
It's nuts. Yeah, no, you're welcome.
You've been giving me some of the best Batman stuff to read. Like, I really liked.
Oh yeah, Rokeith, you're right. Batman Odyssey
and...
is what I was trying to think of earlier. That crazy Neil Adams book. Yeah, no, it is. It's bonkers. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it was actually kind of refreshing to read something that read something that actually like wasn't technically very good, but it's just so weird to me because you have such like great veterans working on this, and it's just kind of sad to see them stumble so hard. I mean, Jim Lee's doing fine, but like, yeah. Just the story, Frank Miller. It's just, it's kind of.
Well, I'm sorry for hurting your brain with that. It was the first thing that came to me when we decided to do a Robin show, where I was like, we've been reviewing nothing but really good stuff. It might be interesting to go to something that is kind of universally hated, and for good reason. And I'm not just trashing on it because it's popular to trash on it. It's that bad, and it's bizarre, and it's one of those things that makes you angrier because you start to see the value in parts of it.
Yeah. Well,
that always makes it worse. I can't even enjoy the "it's so bad it's good" thing. Like it's not that. Sorry, what?
No, there are some interesting there are threads that could be interesting if handled completely differently. That's kind of the frustration of reading it.
Here's a quick minor point before we get off this. Did you have this? Why do we keep having... This happens 3 or 4 times. Why do we keep having characters responding irritatingly to automatopoeia? Did you notice that? Where you'd have a comic book word, like something would make a sound and it's written out a like certain way, boop, 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 and then someone will respond like, "That's a stupid sound." Like, I don't like the way the artist decided to spell the sound I'm hearing. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, Robin did that in regards to Batman doing something with one of his devices or something. But it happens
several other places.
Yeah. Weird.
It's just the wrong really kind of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Let me go through some questions here, or some comments about things that we were talking about. Rohit Dahar, actually, the Golden Age Green Lantern's weakness is wood. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, the color yellow is reserved to the Green Lantern Corps. Yeah, but is that... Okay, so I guess Silver Age, but it's an early thing. We haven't used it in a long time, I don't think. OAW says yellow equals fear. Yeah, that's what we do when we get to the Spectrum, but the yellow is the weakness of the Green Lantern Corps, is a thing I'm pretty sure that's well before Jeff Johns did the whole Spectrum thing.
Yeah. There were some super chats as well that I think we had missed.
Okay, let me get to those in a minute. I'm going to need to do the same thing that you did. So
run to the bathroom.
I'm going to run off for just a minute. Do you want to respond to some comments, or do you want me to give you the Bat Chat topic and let you start on that?
Sure, that works.
Because I should probably be here for the super chats, I would say.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk about in the Bat Chat section, we can go back to All-Star and answer some more of those things as we go, but I just want to give Dan something that he can run with. So here is my question for today's Bat Chat. How popular is Robin as a character today? Which Robin is most well-known? And, like, by younger audiences, and how do modern audiences want to see that character brought to screen? Those are kind of my 3 related questions I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Why don't you get us started on that, and I'll be right back. I'll be 2 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So, again, my ignorance is going to be showing here. You know, I'm not the most apprised, but I feel like I've learned a lot about the different Robins from younger fans at this point. People who are more on top of Fisher does not want to get down. He wants to hang out. But, you know, I've learned a lot about, you know, your Jason Todds, your Tim Drakes. They're not necessarily newer. But, you know, like your Damian Waynes, and again, not like Cap said earlier, not the newest character, but I feel like I've learned a lot more from them or about those characters through kind of more of the comic book reader Batmans. Also, chat, how are you doing? And everybody else watching, thank you for watching. This is awesome. I like doing this Batmosphere show with Cap. He's a really great guy, and I like hanging out and chatting with y'all. And I'm sorry I don't keep an eye on, enough on the chat at points when we're talking because Cap talks real fast. I can just talk about Cap this entire time while he's gone. That's nice, Fisher. Yeah, that's a nice Fisher. Hey, Guttural and Dro, and Sabertech and everybody in the chat right now. Don't think any one Robin is super well known. I think it's more people know about Robin identity, and it's used by Batman sidekick. Yeah, that's for sure. I think, like, you know, the more general people more so know, man, that was the fastest bathroom break I've ever seen.
I'm pretty quick, man.
I was about to say, do you just have a bucket in the corner, or
no? and I don't even have a bathroom down here. I had to run all the way upstairs.
Oh my God. Well, I felt like when I went to the bathroom, I had to, like, it was like coming out of a 2.5 hour long movie and you just drank a whole gigantic Coke.
Hello, cats.
I like, yes, Fisher's just hanging out. I like Sabertech's response. I don't think anyone Robin is super well known. I think it's more people know about the Robin identity and that it's used by Batman's sidekick. I kind of agree with that. But I was saying more recently, I've been seeing a lot of people talk about Damian.
Yeah.
Damian is certainly more popular, and whenever I've seen people talk about their favorite Robins, they say Damian a lot of the time. And I really do like the concept of a Damian Wayne. In general, like, you know, being trained by the League of Shadows and all that stuff, and being Batman's son. I like the idea.
I don't like it as a mainstream thing that we're stuck with. That always struck me as more of a kind of cool Elseworlds thing to do. But at the same time, again, I'm too old-fashioned with this. I see both sides of this. The problem is, so should we, like, never evolve these characters and, like, you know, people have children and stuff? Like, I almost would have liked it better, though, if we'd actually let him have a kid the normal way, if it wasn't like a convoluted kind of cloney sort of thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's why I like John Kent better, because that's that Superman actually having a kid with Lois Lane.
Yeah. David in the chat says Damian Wayne is pushed. He is not more popular. All right, then I'm wrong. You're right.
David, I don't agree with that. I think it depends on circles, man. Because with kids growing up now, or like, you know, I don't know about teens right now, but like young adults anyway, that I talk to seem to know who Damian is, and that's the Robin they grew up with if they read comics at all, and you know saw him in certain media and stuff. But I think, to kind of answer my own question, that initial question, and I don't know what you've talked about already, Dan. Sorry, this is kind of weird. I set up a discussion topic, and I wasn't here for the discussion, but I wanted to give you something.
You're more well abreast of, like, you know, I think as far as that question goes, I'm a little less equipped to answer it because of my own limited knowledge in regards to Robins and the popularity. But I was just saying, in my experience, I've seen a lot of people talk about Damian. And
you say that, but I feel kind of out of touch, man. I asked the question because I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Like, put a gun in my head, I would have to say, I think Robin is not as popular as he was even 10 years ago. Like, I feel like there was a big Robin crowd there for a while, but Batman hasn't had a Robin that much in the comics for a long time. And, you know, we had that whole, like I talked about earlier, We Are Robin series and things like that, but we keep intentionally giving Batman sidekicks that refuse to call themselves Robins and are trying to we make a big deal out of, you know, we did this with Duke, like, we make a big deal out of they're filling sort of that same role, but I'm not a Robin, I'm not doing the Robin thing. Okay, and so you end up with a lot of people who don't even think about Robin as much with Batman anymore. That's the traditional thing. Everybody knows what Robin is, but
yeah.
I don't think people even necessarily expect a Robin anymore, which I think is good for extra media, to be sure, where you're not necessarily, you know, even as late as 2012, I get why I didn't like how it was handled, but I get why Nolan felt the need to have some kind of reference to that, some kind of allusion to Robin. I don't know that you'd necessarily have to have that now. We still do it some, certainly, but I'm just saying that I could see somebody making a Batman movie and not even thinking to put Robin in at this point. So I don't know. I don't know that there's as many. I'm thinking people younger than me, you know, people that didn't experience the 90s at all. You know, 18, 20-year-olds, people born in the early 2000s. I don't know that as many of them think of Robin as being as ubiquitous as he once was in Batman things, where, like, you have to have him there.
Yeah.
And I also think that we've been making so much stuff lately that is set in that universe and is about the Bat family, but not about Batman. The people don't even need Batman and Batman stories anymore. I think we're getting to that place, and so there's a lot of things that are more about the Bat family as a thing at large. And I don't know, how much does things like Avengers have to do with that, where everything superhero has to be a team thing now?
Yeah. Well, it was getting to the point where it seemed like there for a while that they were just going to make the DCU like a Bat family thing. They were, you know, we were getting a Nightwing developed movie, we were getting a Batgirl developed movie.
I remember that.
They were really going to expand into that, but you know,
and there's still
obviously things have shifted so much with that.
There's still been a lot of talk about a Nightwing movie and something happening with Robin at some point. And if we are indeed recanonicizing, help us all, the Snyder version of Justice League, and we'll see what that looks like when we actually get it. But all signs are pointing to Warner's is hoping that and you know, HBO and AT&T hoping that works out such that we can continue on in that direction again. They're gonna want to, pardon me, they're going to want to do stuff about what happened with Robin and Joker and all of that we had little allusions to in BVS, and there's even been talk about, like, prequel matter on an HBO series to deal with that. So
yeah,
I don't care about any of that because I thought we were past the DCEU and I was excited about that, and now we maybe aren't. So Roheath says, I mean, Batman Gotham Knights is basically Bat Family, the video game. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
It's not about Batman anymore. It's about Gotham as a thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and knock out some of these super chats, you think?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Thanks, folks. Oh, there's quite a few. Goodness.
Yeah, that's why I pointed it out before. There was like 4 or 5 that
I didn't realize that. Now there's more like a dozen. It looks like. Let's.
Your nails, Fisher.
Oh no!
I'm being assaulted. We need to trim their nails here. Love ya.
Oh man, I get real freaked out when Oracle sticks her claws out because I'm like, those look painful.
Oracle.
And they have been a couple times.
Clawing me.
Somebody asked me earlier where Oracle is. She's upstairs. I think she's sleeping in bed with my wife, probably. She likes to sleep at the foot of the bed.
Yeah.
And she also likes to, she gets in a hunt mode. Well, I say she likes to sleep. She likes to just cuddle up there, but she'll run around and get in hunt mode in the middle of the night. So nobody cares about this. What she'll do is, she'll wake me up in the middle of the night and just doesn't like that I'm sleeping. It'll be like 2 in the morning, and she'll be like, play with me, like, get up. It's not time for you to sleep. And I'm like, no, it is though. And sometimes I have to spray her with water. Sometimes it's the only thing that works. Anyway, Mr. Roboto is referring to something from 2 or 3 hours ago now. So I don't know what he's talking about. $2 super chat. Dan's your Batzaro or Spawn then? I don't know what he was referring to.
I don't know.
And then
Batzaro.
Sorry I didn't see some of these earlier. $2 super chat also from Mr. Roboto. Cap, who would be your Jean-Paul Valley? So the person that would like take the Captain Logan mantle and like botch it all to hell? I don't know. I don't want to throw somebody under the bus like that. Would it be like somebody that I would give the keys to the Geekvolution Kingdom to and then be like, that was a bad idea. We better pull that. We're going to have an epic fight in the bunker so I can get my bat suit, my cap suit back.
Doomsfence.
Yeah, I guess that's the answer. I guess it's Doomsfence. I also don't want to say too much because that is kind of the plot of Capfall. Like, that's kind of what Capfall's about. So, I don't want to get too far into that, but thanks for the super chat. Chewbacca's Lover, $5 super chat. It's hard for Batman to be sympathetic and not do the crazy Batman and Robin. And I think we actually answered that one already. All-Star Batman and Robin is more what it would be like. Philip Kelton, is that a $50 super chat?
Yeah, it was from earlier.
Oh, crazy. Thanks so much. Miller's
I saw that pop up earlier.
Weird Age theme. YO has a lot of kid symbolism. Dark Knight Returns, what is it? Oh, year one. Dark Knight Returns has Batman going through a third age crisis, and All-Star Batman and Robin like an edgy teenager. For no reason.
Yeah.
So did you just get over that at some point? Is it like, I sure hope you didn't actually get anybody murdered with your bleach and fire, Batman?
Yeah, the people in the comics say they didn't die, but they died. Those people died. There's no way. Even from a compound fracture in your arm, you could still die. Like, I don't know why Batman thinks like, oh, you'll be fine. Like, bad things can happen
and like,
with internal bleeding.
Again, is it supposed to be an absurd satire? Is it supposed to be Frank Miller going, this is what people are actually saying with Batman when they write a Batman that doesn't kill because his intent isn't to, and they just don't realize it. Here's how stupid it is. Like, does Frank Miller look at, and I don't think he does.
No, I don't.
Spoiler alert,
any
I don't think this is what he's doing, but what I was gonna say is, does Frank Miller see reviews of All-Star Batman and Robin, look how stupid Batman is, and he laughs because the joke is on him, and he's like, yeah, I know. That was the idea. This is supposed to be that stupid. Is that what he's doing?
I don't know if I'd ever want to get in that man's head either way, so I don't know.
Seriously. Well, thank you so much for the super chat, man.
Yeah,
Saber
super sweet.
Tech, support is amazing. Thanks so much. $5 super chat from Saber Tech. It's odd is in Dark Knight Returns, we're shown a Batman who's more extreme because he's gone through years of bad stuff, but in this prequel, he's somehow more extreme. Yeah, and I made that point while we were reviewing that too. Yeah. Isn't that weird? They don't match. And all you had to do was say that it's not from that universe, and then you got to wonder why he had so many references to it. But
yeah,
when Eric told me that years ago, I was shocked. I was like, really? It's supposed to be part of it? He's like, yeah. And Frank Miller also considers his canon to be outside of any other canon. Like, he's writing, like, Ultimate Batman or something. So even though year one was in canon for a long time, in mainstream Batman, in his mind, all of the stuff he's written counts in its own universe, including Spawn Batman.
Weird.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
$2 super chat from Bob the Hun. Imagine Twitter if Miller put this out now. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's it. There were a couple times when I was reading that, some of the language he used, I was just like, ooh, not aged very well.
But you look back and you go, well, Twitter would be a bleached firestorm. But you go you go back and you read that, and a part of me goes, it was a different time. It was easier to get away with that back then. And another part of me goes, he was doing that because it's controversial.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he was trying to stir up something.
Yeah.
I
feel like
why.
I get that a little bit from Snyder as well, where it's like clearly he's trying to make some decisions that are intentionally going to upset some people.
It's like he has that idea of, if people hate it, it means that you did something right, and that only works when you were actually onto something and there was some truth in, some meaning in the piece, not just, let's have a beloved character be a psychopath for no reason. Like, it has to come from a thoughtful place.
Yeah. Does it though?
I'm with you. I don't. Yes, I'm with you. I don't know how to not just be really redundant talking about this stuff.
It just keeps reverting back to it doesn't make sense, and my brain hurts from trying to make sense of it.
This is really funny. Divid22, $2 super chat. At least this Batman doesn't brand people, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's fine. Like, if you started branding people, that's going too far. And finally, a $1.99 super chat from 5590ERS. Have you guys read Dark Knight Strikes Again? Not in a long time. And I can't remember if I ever actually finished it. I definitely read at least the first half of that. Dark Knight Strikes Again is...
I might have started it.
Is the original sequel to Dark Knight Returns, which is much less good. That's a good sentence.
I have, yes. Yeah, oh, yeah. I couldn't get into it. I couldn't. I started... Because I have the Absolute Edition of that, and
it's also
I just
kind
couldn't.
of meandery. It's better than this, but it's about the Justice League in that universe, and
yeah,
it's I don't know. I think it's trying too hard to be as edgy and surprising as that first book was.
Yeah, it just seems like such a big shift a little bit from what came before. But yeah. Yeah,
precisely. Saber Tech Cap, you have a cat named Oracle? I do.
Oracle.
And she's wonderful. She has been with us a year now. I think a year, almost to the day.
I remember you sending me pictures after that Batmosphere.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's weird, because when you had said, like, a year ago, and I was like, wait, we did do this. I, for some reason, thought we started this year, but we've been doing this for over a year.
Yeah, because
we haven't been the most consistent, but...
Well, we were trying to do it monthly, and this is only the 9th episode, and we took, like, 3 months off, so we would have had to have started it November or December of last year at least. Yeah. And I think it was even a little earlier than that, maybe. No, I think we started it when I got into this house. I think the first episode is actually in the bunker, is it not? Pretty sure we didn't start it at the old place.
Yeah.
Obviously, I could go look. I'm not going to right now, but yeah.
Yeah. Or you moved after the first episode. That might have been it. I could be wrong, but
I think so. I'm almost positive that I was here when the logo got made.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe.
Plug for DJ.
Good old Deej. Excellent logos. He makes such great logos.
Oh,
puts me to shame.
He's amazing. Yeah. Well, and it's what he does for a living too. So I mean, I've got a professional.
Yeah. Oh no, you were at the old place.
Was I really? Episode. Okay. All
yep.
Right.
September 19th, 2019.
Did we have that logo yet?
Yes, we had it from the very beginning.
Okay.
It was the background.
Wow.
Crazy. Time flies, man. We've known each other for so long at this point.
Eons. Yeah.
Eons.
Well, Dan, I love doing the show with you, man. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. I always feel unprepared for some reason whenever I come on here. I feel like I don't have I have my own issues, my own... I'm so critical of myself, but yeah, in general, I might not have the most knowledge about Batman, but I love chatting with you and doing this.
Dude, everything is relative, though. I also feel that way because we get people in the chat that know way more about Batman than I do.
For sure.
I mean, for both of us, it's just that's a thing that we're huge fans of, and we know what we know, and we're always learning more, and that's a lot of why we do this. And I have. The things that I have gotten to know as much as I know about are not just because I read and watch them a lot. It's because I do material on them. And so I try, and I get self-conscious about it too, Dan, but I try not to let that, not having enough knowledge stop me from talking about something if I know anything about it at all, if I really want to, because that's how you learn. So, I mean, I wouldn't know Trek like I do if I had done a club for a long time with that. And I'm embarrassed of my early comics material because I didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
You go back and look at my earliest comic reviews, and they're short because I didn't have a lot of knowledge of the industry and of the background of stories I was reading and stuff. And it's hard for me not to go on for at least 45 minutes to an hour with everything I review now because I've been doing this a long time. I've learned a lot, and so part of the reason you do it is to learn and grow. And
yeah, you gain more points of reference and everything, and yeah.
Guys, we'll take a a few questions if anybody wants to talk about anything related to Batman before we get going here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Saber Tech, we always do a little Q&A at the end of this, and we just did a bunch with the Super Chat, so people might not have anything, but I want to give you one more opportunity if you're watching live right now. And thanks a lot for watching after the fact, after the stream is done, if you're doing that. Saber Tech, why do you think they haven't done much with Carrie Kelly outside of the Dark Knight Returns universe besides cameos? That's a great question. I couldn't tell you. I don't know why you wouldn't run with that character. Somebody, maybe it was him, somebody earlier, 2 hours ago now, asked why we didn't use her for New 52. Because we didn't take those kinds of opportunities like we should have. If you're reinventing the world, you can do all kinds of interesting things. You know, sort of like, you go back to the Batman TV show and how they gave us Batgirl before they gave us Robin. I mean, you can do all kinds of interesting things. But New 52, and I've said this before, and I'm a broken record, felt like they had to play it safe and start over while simultaneously not starting over. So if something was too popular, they had to keep it in a bubble. So Batman had his whole same history, except for anything they decided retroactively they wanted to retcon. Like, it didn't seem like pardon me, not Death of Superman. That also kind of got retconned. But it didn't seem like Nightfall really happened, but Bane was there, so it was confusing, because it was like, what exactly is the backstory of Bane? And everything is truncated in like 5 years. It was just ridiculous. But if you wanted to, actually take the risk of really starting over and rebooting, doing something like starting with Carrie Kelly would have been really cool, and a way to get some new blood in and some new readers and appeal to new types of people that are reading comics now that weren't years ago. That is a cool way to make the diversity thing happen more. People like Carrie Kelly. That's a character that would be interesting to run and do things with. And then you've got more ladies in your books. I'm all for that. I mean, that could be really cool. But they didn't. And I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know why we've never done more with that character.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you have such an iconic version of Robin there, and yeah, like, outside of that book, have they done anything else with her? Because, I only know her from that.
Iron Shell, which Batman stories do you want to see animated? At this point, I mean, we've done a lot of the major things, and some of them I wish we hadn't done or had done a lot better.
Yeah. Killing Joke. At you.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, the one I always used to say was Gotham by Gaslight, and we've done that now, and that was kind of hit or miss. I liked things about it.
Yeah. Although I've heard Killing Joke, the actual adaptation portion is good. Just the preamble before it is unnecessary, in my opinion.
I don't agree with that either. I don't even
okay,
think
well, then never mind. Well, I from the animation I saw, I wasn't super into the animation. Like, it looks like it's missing frames for some reason.
It's got huge pacing things, and the way they decided to adapt the song was weird. They should have just not done that.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of it, so.
And the biggest issue was using those voice actors, because that just immediately takes me out. Like, I need, and I know Mark Hamill always wanted to voice Joker in that story, but I need those to be different. They're such different versions of those characters. And I realize that both of those guys have done slightly different versions of those characters before. That's a whole other thing. Those aren't the voices for Alan Moore's Batman and Joker. His dialogue is too stiff. It wasn't right for it. And also, a lot of that just didn't translate straight. Like, it should have been more rewritten than it was. It kind of had that Year One problem to some degree, where it was kind of adapted too straight. It needed to be adapted, not just pulled right off the page. But, it's too beloved, so we can't mess with it, really. So, I don't know. But do you have any immediate thoughts on that? Like other things that we should go ahead and adapt?
I probably haven't read enough of the canon in general to really kind of make that call. I mean, all the big ones that I am aware of, mostly have been. So like, I wasn't even aware of Red Hood until that movie came out, and I really love that story. So no, I don't know. Usually it's the animated movies that are the things that educate me to those storylines.
A lot of things I'm thinking of are things that you would have to change quite a bit, but you could do like loose adaptations of. I think of Snyder's stuff. 0 Year could be really cool, because that's a kind of beginning of Batman's sort of story without it being a straight up origin again. And also Riddler's really popular right now, so that'd be a way to go. Also along those lines, War of Jokes and Riddles would be a cool thing to adapt. And I think makes sense as a 75, 80-minute movie, certainly. I've always wanted to see something done with Nightfall, but I don't want it done like Death of Superman was. So, like, it needs love and tender care. It needs the right people on it. But those are the first things that come.
I wish it was on top of those animated movies more. I mean, the last one I heard was really good, and I think it was from you. And from other people is the Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one is really good. I've heard.
It's great.
So
it's a lot of fun.
I need to catch up on those.
It's not a super thought-provoking story or anything. It is the novel thing it sounds like, but it's as far as fan servicey things go, it's really good fan service. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The animation's really good. Like, they did a great job with that, and I like that that the turtles are all designed to look completely different, almost like they're in totally different animation styles. It's cool. It's like it almost looks like Mike Mignola came in just to design Raphael and then left, and then like everything else is done by different people. It's really cool. Iron Shell. It seems like Dan's not a big Batman comic fan. No, but he's learning more. He's reading more as we go along.
I am, but it's like there's so much. For me, it's just there is so much, and in general, I've only ever I grew up at a time where it wasn't digitally available everywhere like it is now. So I have my collections over there, like the Absolute Long Halloween, Absolute Dark Knight, Absolute Watchmen. That's not Batman, but like Absolute Hush. Like growing up, I would just every now and again go when I was at, the grocery store, the food line, I would pick up a Batman comic if my mom let me. Like I wasn't a collector. I wasn't bought that stuff. I wasn't actively searching it out as a kid. I was more into the movies and the cartoon series and eventually the games. But it came to a point where there was just so much that I don't know where to start. So, and especially once New 52 came around, I was like, oh, this might be a chance for me to get onto it. But I just had so many other things going on that I just never got to it. So when I do read, it's usually for this now. Like I don't actively go too far into it. Like I did once I got DC Universe, I started going through the Morrison Batman and Robin, which is really good. But I also felt like I missed a whole lot leading up to that, considering it's not Bruce Wayne Batman. And
Morrison is a whole saga, so you want to go all the way back to Batman and Son.
So I mean, that's what I mean. It's like I just don't like how can somebody who doesn't know about all this stuff just launch into it. So that's why I don't read. It's not that I don't want to read.
It's tough because of the way comics are organized, because they come out for the people that are reading them week to week and month to month. And I mean, a lot of people read more in trade these days, and the industry is certainly changing, just like everything else is. It's hard to say what it's going to look like in 5-10 years. It could be unrecognizable, just like I think movies are going to be. The way that we consume them, it's hard to say what that's going to look like. But still, at the moment, it is really hard to keep up and know exactly where the right jumping on points are and where even particular ones begin when you have a character that, or when you have a story that runs through a bunch of different books, especially unless you're looking at it as it's being published week to week. Where do those Supermans come from?
These are my old comic books. So I mean, this gives you an idea. Like I would just get random comic books. Like I used to vacation at the beach with my family on Topsail Island, and at the hotel, the condo that we stayed at, in the little shop, they just had random comics just sitting in a basket that you could take. So I have like this weird like Superman run from December 93 to May 94, and it's just like random issues. And then Captain Canuck, because Captain Canuck, that's right, the story of Captain Canuck. It takes place it's made in 1979. It takes place in 1994, where Canada is the international headquarters of the world. That's right. And so I mean, this is like, that's my reference, is like whatever issues I could get growing up, I read and I liked, and that was literally it. So I just happen to have those right now.
That's what I did too. And then later on, when I was in high school, I started buying more things in trade. And, I still collected a lot of singles, but I would buy, major stories just to kind of keep up a little bit and feel like I knew what was going on a year or two after they came out. So I read a lot of the events that way. But anyway, real quick, let's knock a couple more of these out because there's quite a bit here. Somebody said reading orders are a thing. Yeah, certainly. Iron Shell says that, and that's a thing to consider, Dan, when you're trying to decide where to start with a thing. Is, you know, obviously this information's all on the internet, but for somebody uninitiated, and obviously you're figuring out more and more, Dan, how this stuff works, but like, you wouldn't know right away without someone telling you necessarily that Morrison's Batman doesn't start at Batman and Robin. Like, you might go, okay, I feel like I'm missing something, but like, how far back am I supposed to go? What exactly am I supposed to look at? Reading orders will go like, here's what to read in an event, or here's what to read of like a writer's run on a character, but you kind of have a prerequisite that you need to even think to go look into that. Right? Like, when you were reading Batman and Robin, you probably didn't, you know, you probably wouldn't have known how far back Morrison goes, or even if that's the beginning of that.
And again, like, I'm more of a movie guy, so like I spent a lot of my youth, the years of my youth watching movies more so than, and I did read comic books, but it wasn't really kind of like deep in the middle of runs or anything. I guess I just grabbed random ones. So I would just get like little tiny versions or little bits, glimpses into a story, but not the whole story, until I started getting I just waited for the collections to come out. Typically, like, I have Nightfall and I have, you know, the ones I listed before, and I've read year one. So it's like, I just wait for people to be like, this is the good one. So, and then I'll just read it. And that's, I don't have too much interest in going in and reading all of it.
Rohi, if Cap, which of the Robins would you trust and be okay with fully replacing Bruce as Batman permanently, who shouldn't be Batman but have a separate superhero identity altogether? I mean, if it has to happen, it's got to be Dick Grayson. I've always felt that way even before Morrison did it with Dick Grayson, and that whole thing was hit or miss for me. There were some writers that I thought did a really great Dick in the Batsuit, and others where I really didn't like that. And, you know, I knew a lot of people that were like, Bruce is the only person that should ever be Batman, and I'm not going to read, you know, Dick Grayson in the Batsuit. There was some really great stuff with that, and it was interesting looking at the different ways that he wore that suit, and how he was Batman but not Batman, you know, his own guy. So if somebody's going to take that over because Bruce Wayne died or whatever, it's Dick Grayson. And then, like, who shouldn't be Batman but have a separate superhero identity altogether? Everybody else.
Question that answers itself.
This may be a cop-out, but I don't think anybody else should. I mean, besides Terry McGinnis, I guess, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah. Ariel Ace, you mentioned your favorite Robins. Who's your least favorite? Personally, I hate Damian as a concept. I agree. I also don't like Damian as a concept. So that is definitely my least favorite. And I don't dislike anybody else that's ever been in the Robin suit for an extended period of time, certainly.
Yeah. I couldn't really answer that. I like all of them well enough. I don't really know that much about Damian, but I don't hate the idea.
Solar Tech, one problem is a lot of times certain collections go out of print, making it hard to get through a run. That's what digital's for. And these days, I'm reading a lot more that way. I still collect singles, but I'm reading comics. And I never thought I would say this. I never thought this would happen, Dan, but I read comics almost exclusively on my iPad at this point. It's just convenient, and I have access with my various subscriptions to, like, probably 60 or 70% of everything that's ever existed. It's just really hard not to take advantage of that. So, you know, you have a lot of people that will go to Comixology and buy issues a la carte and spend almost or exactly what they cost to buy print. I don't understand that. I think that's too overpriced. I get that we've done that for all this time to keep comic stores open, but I'm not going to pay for that. But there's such massive libraries now on Marvel and DC's services, and also Comixology's limited but pretending to be unlimited service. But also I can get things through Hoopla, which is a library service, for free. You get a limited amount that you could read every month, but that's also a place to get more recent stuff. And yeah, and then, you know, there's other ways that I won't talk about, but those are the things I pay for. And
yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I re-signed back up to DC Universe to read this run. You know, I've dabbled in reading on there a fair bit. Years and years ago, I downloaded a massive library of Batman stuff that I just have on my computer, but I haven't read. But yeah, I mean, I like physically owning things generally, but like to read something that I'm never gonna go back and reread, probably, like, I'd rather do it digitally.
See, I used to say that too, but there's a big difference between owning a thing and just looking at it. Like, I like, because the thing is, it's not like I don't buy comics anymore because I'm reading them digitally. I have a lot of space these days, but it's still finite. Like, I own 10,000 comics. I don't need to own everything I ever read. Like, I'm a lot more choosy now. And of course, I'm in a different situation because I do end up having to read a lot of comics. So if you only care about a couple characters or a couple of books, it makes sense to own everything you read. I have to read a lot for work, and I don't need to own every Black Panther thing. I just don't collect that character, so what's the point of buying it? Like, I've got the characters and the pretty much just the characters. I was gonna say writers and stuff, but more characters, you know, that I collect, and that's about what I buy now. As far as having to actually have it, especially since I like to buy in singles and it just takes up more space.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I guess I'm just having a conversation with Solar Tech about this. True Cap, depending on where you get that digitally, you don't actually own it. I've lost some digital books because of behind-the-scenes stuff in the companies. Yeah, exactly. But I don't always... I don't know, like... I guess if it's a thing that's really rare, but you can get it for a good price right now, it makes sense to buy it in case you're afraid you won't be able to read it later, because... Like, I know I don't own a thing when I'm reading it. I am, like, renting intentionally. That's, like, it's the same thing. You could say the same thing about having any streaming services for watching something. Well, Cap, why would you ever watch something on Disney Plus? It might not be there forever. You don't own it. Well, I know I don't own it. I have access to it right now, and so I'm looking at it right now. And if it's something that I love, I'll buy it. Like, that's also a way to sample stuff. And Dan, I've done this. Like, I've read, like, old stuff that I'm like, I have to have a copy of that. And, like, it might be worth a little bit, and I might have to drop some cash on it, and I've done that.
Yeah. Well, nobody can take my Captain Canuck away from me.
But, yeah, but Solar Tech, that's the point I'm making, is that, like, but I don't have to own everything. You know, like, I'm aware that it's not mine when and so that's why I don't understand purchasing single issues of comics. I've never gotten that, because you don't own them, but they cost the same physical does. That's weird. I don't get that. I'm talking about paying for subscription services. I'm talking about $10 a month or $8 a month between Marvel and DC to have access to a big library of stuff that you read that you don't have to own. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do you think 5590ERS, do you think DC Comics will eventually age up Damian to have him quit being Robin and get a new codename like Dick Grayson did? Yeah, I do, actually. I think that's almost inevitable. We keep aging up people. We've done it with John Kent already. We did that way too quickly, and I liked him as a younger kid.
Damie Man. Call him Damie Man.
Damie Man. But anyway, yeah, so that is probably where we're going to end today. We're already past 3 hours, so...
As we do on this show.
Well, it's an hour for every month we weren't here.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just got to go for many hours. I'm pretty sure the last time we did this, when we were talking... we went 3-something hours. I'm pretty sure.
We were making up for the months that we weren't going to be here, and now we're making up for it backwards as well. It's you know, so you get an extra 3 hours, except the show's never been an hour long.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think you and I can get together and not talk for at least 2 hours.
Divid22, $5 super chat. Divid, sometimes I'm not sure what you're talking about, buddy. Cap the collector value. Don't forget the $1 million Superman. Are you saying just like? Yeah, I mean, and I am a collector, like, but I'm just saying I don't have to own everything at this point. Like, I don't mean to keep repeating myself, but I mean, yeah, if you bought everything every now and again, like that you read, something would end up being valuable that you didn't expect to be valuable, and you've got it, and like that's cool that it's really valuable. Again, I'm in a little bit of a different place. I have so much already.
Hey, Cap, can you value my copy of Iraq, Son of Thunder?
Yes, I can tell you exactly what that's worth. It's like probably $3 or $4.
Okay, really?
Maybe.
Well, this was 60 cents
Maybe.
October 14th.
Probably more like 2. Actually, the condition that's in, it's probably worth half of its book value.
Oh, yeah. 1982. It's pretty good. The Tapestry of Fate. Of Doom, I'm sorry. Anyway.
Doom and Fate, it's the same thing.
I have a sad sack comic from the 60s. Anyway.
Dan, I have a weird Lego Batman shirt on. It's got, like, bat symbols on the sleeves.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you were wearing 2 different, like, jacket, like a shirt, the button-up shirts or what.
I was noticing that it was actually showing up on camera, so I thought I'd show it to you. Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, I'm always wearing an overshirt. I have that. Yeah. Oh, no, actually, I don't. I have a clock.
This is the flashlight.
Oh, yours is a flat. Mine's a clock. Thanks for blinding
I have a
my
clock.
eyes.
I have a clock, too. The clock is up there with my Stormtrooper, Lego Stormtrooper clock, but you can't. Oh, wait, hold on. You could see it if I did this. There you go. It's up there with pin.
Oh, you also have that clock, yeah.
Kirsty. Yeah. Good old Hellraiser.
Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Batmosphere. You know what, real quick before we go, because we always do this, if you're still watching with us live, write in the comments right now what you'd like us to tackle next time as far as our main subject goes. It can be a Batman character. It can be any aspect of Batman. We have done Definitive Batcave. We've done Definitive Batmobile. We've done a bunch of villains. We did Gordon not too long ago.
We've done Joker, Clayface, Harley Quinn, Alfred.
Joker, yeah.
Batwoman.
And we started with Alfred.
As one does.
Next time will be our, what is this, Batmosphere 9? It'll be our 10th show. So we should do something kind of special for 10.
Batman?
I was going to say, this might be the time to just do the Batman show. I thought of that.
I was just thinking, why didn't we do Batman for the first episode? We did Alfred. Well, Pennyworth was coming out. Like guess we were doing that. But
Saber Trek says Definitive Batsuit. I kind of like that.
Yeah,
Batman
that's a really
family
good one.
members. I don't know about that. Where you just pick like a Bat family character. Penguin. I don't know if I want to do Penguin for 10. We keep threatening Penguin from the first show.
Yes.
We've continued all, and I know exactly what I'm going to have you read if we do Penguin.
Okay.
Action figures is an interesting notion. I don't know if I want to do that for 10 though. No, I think it might have to be Batman. Now we have a couple people that really want Penguin. We could do a show on Batgirl. That wouldn't be a bad time to do that.
Yeah. We're just going to have to keep teasing Penguin. If the people really want to see it, we keep them each week. Maybe we'll do like a wild card one and it'll be like, oh, it's Penguin.
You don't know what it's going to be. It could be anything. I kind of like your Batman idea. I don't know what we should do for the Batman show. It should be something. Okay, can I tell you what I want to do? But it's good. If we can do this like earlier in January, we might still sort of be able to get away with it. Because we're in the middle of December and we're not going to have time to do another one before Christmas. We're not going to be able to do what I really wanted to do for Christmas. I really want you to read Batman Noel.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Awesome. And that would be a great thing to do for a just straight up Batman show. And I think if we did one in January, we could probably still get away with it.
That'd be fine. I'd be fine with that.
That may be the thing to do.
Would
It'll
that
be fun
work
just to
for
look at the art.
Batman? If we're doing Batman? I mean, everything's Batman, I guess.
Yeah, but that is a Batman that's on his own, and it's kind of it's a little bit of a character study, and it's in a way it's Batman going through Christmas Carol.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
And I think you'd really, really like that. And that's one of my favorite Batman artists.
I'm down.
Saber Tech says Batman Noel has my favorite Batsuit. It's a really good Batsuit. And you got to play with it in one of the Arkham games. I forget. Maybe it was Arkham Knight that finally put that in.
Or Origins, one of the, I think, I do remember it being in one of them.
It might have
been. And Origins was kind of like a Christmas thing.
Rohit says you could do a Riddler episode and have Dan's read Zero Year or War of Jokes and Riddles. Riddler wouldn't be bad for 10 either, because that's my favorite Batman villain.
Yeah.
Oh, Dro got to meet Lee Bermejo. That's awesome.
Oh, super cool.
I have not talked to Lee Bermejo. But yeah, okay. So we're not going to say definitively which of those it'll be. I am kind of Personally, Dan, I'm sitting between the Batman and Riddler idea. I like both of those a lot.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
I'm leaning toward Batman and going ahead and doing Noel a month after Christmas, but
I'd be down. I've only heard good things about it.
I think people would be excited about that. And I did a review of that right when it came out, but I've never done anything extensive on it. Sabertech says both of those games.
Oh, Origins and Night both had it? Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you had a good time. We'll see you again next month, hopefully. I was Captain Logan, and that was Danz Newz.
This was a wreck, son of thunder. Ha-ha!
Ah. Bye, folks.
Bye. Love y'all.